Hey, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's go places.
Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
It is time to put the hay in the barn, as they say.
But how do you know which way the play is going to go before you set that up?
That's what film session tells you.
No, it doesn't.
You can more than likely anticipate when it's going to happen, though, Paul.
Well, usually,
Okay, then do it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
I want a big win in Dallas, right in Jerry World.
The big D.
Rub it in his face and leave with Zeke.
Yeah, Evan.
Leave your big D alone.
Oh my God.
He was doing the blocking shed,
Shed.
drill.
Sled.
Sled, thank you. And
You're thinking
he's-
blocking Chanel. That's his wife, who's an internet model.
No,
stop.
she's not.
Sally,
I hate to let this
Sally
go.
sheds
She's on the-
sleds at the seashore.
Wow,
Right.
is this show left the rails?
Yeah. He's
All right, Eric is... It's Evan, not Eric.
Thank you.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Tuesday here at Gillette Stadium, and oh, God.
Whoa.
It's a tough Tuesday.
You didn't make
it's
it
a
through the
tough
Oakland.
Tuesday. I did not expect that, obviously. I thought a Patriots win 27-20, and nothing could have been further from the truth. I mean, that was, you know, you're really bad when you become another team's get-right game. You know, we became the Cowboys' get-right game. You know, they lost to the Cardinals, and they got right against us. And that's what we used to do. Like, we'd have a bad game, and some team would come in, and we'd get
Slaughter.
right against them.
Yeah.
That's what we were.
Somehow many people think the Saints are the get-right game for the Patriots.
For us.
Oof.
Yeah.
I don't see how you can believe that. You know, to me, it's like another one where it can go either way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it was bad. And you know what? The worst part of the game was losing Judon and Gonzalez.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more.
You lost arguably your two best players, offense or defense.
And I mean, that's just scratching the surface of it, which is ridiculous. But I mean, Judon is like press conferences front and center, brings some entertainment, brings some life, some personality to this team. And Gonzalez was, has been a star through these first three and change that he played. You talk about just the need for playmakers on this team, and you just lost arguably two of your biggest playmakers, if not the two biggest playmakers on defense, which we're all talking about the offense and Mac and how are we going to go going forward. It's like, even if they'd escaped that game with a win and you came out losing those two guys, it would probably be just as bad as if you had lost this game,
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how they overcome those losses. It's going to be big blows.
I mean, the only saving grace maybe is if Jonathan Jones and Jack Jones comes back and you get a little bit more depth in the backfield, but still,
I feel like the injuries are turning into like a CVS receipt, and hopefully you guys are going digital at CVS now. But I will say, it kind of sucks that I feel like the defense has bailed this offense out or given the offense, ample opportunities, and without them, and when you're already out all the Joneses, and to add those two on the list is kind of a big blow
we
to
know
the
that
defense.
if the Patriots are going to be at all competitive this season, from the evidence that we have now, it would be up to the defense.
Yeah. And especially Gonzalez and Matthew Judon to
Right.
lead the way.
Right.
Yeah,
Your two
that's
best
why that
players.
was the worst part, because you can listen. It was a bad performance. We're not going to spend 2 hours sugarcoating it, but you can blow off a bad game as a bad game.
Yeah.
That's not.
Right.
Bill said after the game, I don't think we played. Our play today was indicative of what we are, and I would largely agree with that. That was by far the worst I've seen them play. But to lose those two guys, and we should probably update people. There are reports now, Adam Schefter, Tom Pelissero, a lot of guys. Judon is expected to undergo surgery tomorrow for the torn biceps. So Schefter sort of alluded to the fact that he's holding out hope. Judon is holding out hope that he might be able to return, but it's 2 months minimum. And, to what would he be returning?
Right.
So in any regard, he's out for a while. He's not going to be part of your solution to get back into this race. And Gonzalez, I haven't seen any definitive report, but I've read that it's a torn labrum for him, which is similar to what Marcus Jones is dealing with. So he's going to be out for a while, if not the entire season as well. A lot of guys are eligible to return from IR. It certainly seems like Tyquan Thornton will be one of them based on his Instagram. Was it Instagram that he had yesterday?
I think it was
on the gram.
Mm-hmm.
You sure it wasn't Threads?
Gallows humor. I like it, Mike. Good
was
job.
pretty
Good job.
Are we still doing Threads?
But I have to be transparent. While this is all transpiring during the game, I have to admit I was thinking, all right, don't win anymore. Let's get into the top pick race.
Yeah.
Did you just say that?
No, I mean
I'm just coming from you. That is just
no, I'm
jarring. Evan and I just
I'm not
look
saying
at each other.
I'm not saying you don't stop trying. You don't stop
Well, you're
trying.
frustrated
but-
within the game, you mean? And
Yeah, but during
yeah.
the game, you're like, okay, well, what's the point now? Like Paul said, okay, so maybe Judon can come back in December or Gonzalez can come back in late November. To what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about Gonzalez's. Just to
I'm saying, maybe. I don't know.
I think he's out for the year.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the crazy thing to me is just that we've only played 4 games. So it's 13 games. Like, this season hasn't even really started that much yet.
And
You know,
you
like, you
haven't
still
even-
have
Well,
14
a
and 3 is still in the
whole
picture.
way to go.
But I don't know
Oh,
how.
and there it is.
14 and 3 is still
Fred,
in the
No,
picture.
I'm only kidding. But I don't know how.
But what this
like
team
how
looks
That's
like,
how do you
impossible.
even get to 500 at
Right.
this
The
point?
But
only
who-
way you
yeah.
get to 500 at this point is if you miraculously are playing the team without their best player or best players.
No, that's
like
how
the-
they got to
But
1.
they're playing us without our best player too.
Yeah,
True,
right.
that's true.
And that
it's-
changes it. That changes it for me.
It's like Matisse and I were looking at the rest of the schedule yesterday, and we were like, you still have to play the Bills twice. You still have to play the Dolphins. You still have to. There's so many people that the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
So that's
like,
4.
how is that
So that's
possible?
4 that you're probably going to be hard pressed. So that's 7 losses.
Mm-hmm.
So to Fred's point, try to get to 500. You do that by going 7-2 in the other 9 games, and I think those other 9 games are probably all like this one against New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
They're coin flips.
Yep.
And then okay, so let's say you do get to 500. What good does that do you at this point?
Wow, Fred really had
No,
an
because-
introspective
because
look at
no,
that,
I'm
what
really
he's doing.
looking
I'm
at this,
blown
and
away.
I'm looking at our personnel, and I'm talking about offense mostly. It ain't good enough. It's just not good enough. And how do you turn that around
Yeah.
for 2024?
And what is the team? What team is this going to be? What emerges? But I want to conversate with Paul for a second.
Oh.
We felt like those were coin flips. Like, without Judon and Gonzalez, do you really feel like they're still coin flips? Like, I feel like it's kind of leaning the other way with a lot of those games now. Without
it
those
depends.
two guys,
It depends which one. The specific games that you ask about. Like
the Raiders, okay, but like Adams without, like, if it's Miles Bryant
But is
on Adams.
but is Garoppolo playing in the Raiders game?
Maybe.
Because I would give the Raiders an edge
that's
if he is.
right.
To your point, those have been their 2 best players, not just defensive players. Their best 2 players, and I think Jonathan Jones is probably close. I'm judging on the fact that they haven't put him on IR, right?
Right.
So they have to think that he's had a chance the last couple of weeks. So I think if he comes back, that will help. But you're still dealing with, even this week, okay, New Orleans, a team that's very much like the Patriots, struggling to score points. Chris Olave, Michael Thomas,
Kamara.
is it Rashid?
Rashid Shaheed.
Shahid.
Yeah,
Shahid,
he's
right?
good. Quick.
Big play guy. So is it Miles Bryant and Sean Wade? Like that's
Or Jonathan Jones and Jack Jones.
That's
maybe?
worrisome. Like I don't think Jack
I
Jones
don't
is
think it's
coming
going to
back.
be Jack Jones.
And I think Jonathan Jones might come back. But even if it is Jack Jones coming back, to what? Like he hasn't played in months at this point. So
We're in trouble.
That is a coin flip game to me, only because the other team can't score. But I would worry about the games like Washington, which is a game that I didn't come into the season worrying about, because they've demonstrated the ability to score.
The Colts.
The Colts young quarterback is making plays, and if he happens to go out of the game like he did, Minshew can put points on the board too.
Yeah.
That offense is played well. Those teams worry me.
And it's like weird to say, but the Giants, I know that they've had their moments where they're like, what is going on? But then they also have the ability to do what they did against the Cardinals and come back from being down 20.
Right. Like I watched a
So-
lot of that game last night, and it looks like a train wreck. You got sacked 11
Yep.
times. You had multiple turnovers that turned into touchdowns. But there were times in that game where they
Yes.
moved the ball effortlessly against Seattle. I thought for large parts of that game they were a better team than Seattle, and they didn't even come close to winning it. Maybe it's just one of those years for the Giants, and they're one of the few teams that have scored fewer points than the Patriots.
Yeah.
Right? It's the Giants and Cincinnati.
And first of all, this team has broken me to the point where
He hasn't spoken in 10 minutes.
I'm now sick on top of everything.
And speechless.
So let's just put that out there why my voice sounds like this. But this is in my lifetime, and I don't count the 90s because I wasn't old enough to really remember that.
I hate him.
He just said he wasn't
lifetime,
old enough to watch the tape yet.
This is the darkest place I've ever been in with this team.
It's always darkest before the dawn.
No,
that's true.
it's not. And this is
No, it's not.
this is as down on the team as I have ever been. Ever.
Wow. Really?
In
Talk about it.
20 years of really understanding
Did you
what
already
was
go through
happening
this
on the
upstairs?
field.
See
And
a little
bit.
any veins upstairs?
I didn't
A
want to
little
let
bit.
him. I didn't want to let him. Get it all out up there. You gotta leave it for here.
I was waiting for Fred to sort of rally the troops, but I guess evidently he's looking for Caleb Williams instead.
And to the point about there's a million places to go, but from the point of the injuries, in some ways, I hope people don't take this the wrong way because Matthew Judon's meant a lot to this team the last couple of years, and I hate injuries for any player, regardless of who it is. He's 31 years old. He already was unhappy with his contract this year, and I'm thinking about 2024 with this football team. So, with him specifically, is it the worst thing in the world that Keon White is going to play more? And maybe you're going to see what Josh Uche can do as a 3-down player. And maybe, you'll see what some of the interior guys like a Sam Roberts or someone like that can do in the defensive front a little bit more. At this point, you are looking at the Judon thing to me as what can we develop for this team? Because, frankly, Matthew Judon is not going to be on the next great Patriots team.
Okay, so what I would love is for Evan to be right, what he just said in the last minute. Keon White. I want to see Keon White full-time. Let's see what he is. You know what I'm afraid of?
It's the same thing Evan said. I think
Jelani Tavai, Anthony Jennings,
Trey
activating
Flowers.
Trey Flowers.
that's what he said.
I'm afraid of Trey Flowers coming off PUP. Got to get that
Yeah.
veteran in there.
This
is why we got him.
Yeah. If they go that direction, that is another strike to me against the coaching staff, because that is selfish. That is looking at it and saying, we think that to win on Sunday, Trey Flowers gives us the best chance to win, and not looking at the bigger picture of where this team is heading and how they need to develop some of the youth on the team. With Christian Gonzalez, that one has me in a dark place, because that is like one of the few players that we could cling to and say defensive rookie of the month, going up against toe-to-toe against these great receivers, and we could cling to that and say, well, we got a building block on defense. We have this foundational player on defense, and him being out for an extended period of time is a death blow.
I'm going to look at the positive on that, but I agree with everything Evan just said. Maybe, you get him out, get the shoulder healthy and get him stronger, right? He's got to get a little bit bigger up top and be a little bit more physical. But tremendous. How about the rookie corners? You watch any of the game last night? Witherspoon?
Little bit.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That was his first good game.
No, that was his first great game. But unless Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were blowing smoke that Pete Carroll was trying to give him, because they were very complimentary of him. Last night he was inside, outside, doing a lot of stuff, like two really good corners. Now, the other one that was taking a pick before Gonzalez, Emmanuel Forbes, has not played very well. He's been very inconsistent and got torched by A.J. Brown on Sunday. But for Gonzalez, maybe you can look at it as, okay, maybe protects his body a little bit, gets a chance to get the surgery, maybe, whatever you have to do for the labrum, and then get stronger, and maybe he comes back better than ever. But I agree with Evan. I was looking forward to watching him play against some of these receivers over the balance.
Because
Right.
that's
No
where
matter
you're
what the
at,
record was.
right?
Well,
you're at a point now where you have to watch the team for individual players popping. Like, is it, you know, this guy
Right.
might
We're
be
looking
good.
for individual performances.
Right. And Gonzalez was, you know, the one guy that I felt like we would be able to sink our teeth into and be like, all right, they got something here with this number one corner, and now you don't even have that. So it's a dark place right now. I think that the one thing I will say about watching Mac Jones yesterday, I thought that Bill O'Brien talked about it a little bit today. To me, that was, you can say what you want about Mac Jones's physical tools and all that kind of stuff. The decision making in that game for Mac was uncharacteristic of Mac.
Yeah,
He does. I would agree with that.
weird.
He doesn't play like that.
You know, because
ever.
the game starts out and they go right down the field. They only ended up with 3, but it looked like, okay, they're going to be able to throw the ball today.
Yeah.
It looked that way. And I think Mac, you know, the weather was right. You know, I'm joking, but you know, compared to some of the
I'm
other
not.
games,
That came out during the post game.
you know, and I think like Mac was feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think that he was making decisions of things that he can't do that he thought he could in that game, and it you know resulted in.
I think it was even worse than that. Like, he was making decisions that nobody should be doing. Like,
Yeah.
not whether it's Mac Jones or it's Josh Allen or Justin Herbert or Patrick Mahomes.
John Elway looked at one of those throws and said, "Bro, I don't know if I could get it there."
I can't, because you got to remember, like when he's on the right sideline and he's throwing across field, that's like a 45-yard pass.
But can you imagine doing it twice?
Right. Well, the first one he got away with.
The first
that was
one-
the
The
problem.
first one almost had like 4 different turnovers to it.
I know, but he got away with it.
I thought Bourne was going to cough it up, too.
I thought
Yeah.
the first one was, in terms of like decision making, was almost more egregious than the pick
Yes.
six.
Yeah, I totally agree.
He threw from the numbers on one side of the field to outside the numbers on the other side. I mean, I
He
looked
didn't even
at.
reach him. Like Bourne barely scraped it off the ground.
Right.
Then he's
I have
bobbling it.
never
Guys,
seen him do that before.
that was so bad.
And the second one was the hitch. Like, he's sitting there. Like, you can't throw that late in the down. Like, the defensive back's just sitting there watching him.
was
Like,
like-
what's he going to do?
Bland was like sitting next to him.
Yeah.
But to me,
that play.
like some people say, well, he was just desperate and trying to make plays. I looked at it as like he's actually feeling good about himself.
Oh, I
and he,
don't.
And he thinks
no,
during
I think
the
he
game,
was chucking and
Yeah.
ducking.
and he thinks he can do things that he can't do in this particular game.
That
game,
particular throw is a throw that he can't make that he thinks he can because he's made it repeatedly.
That game was up there with, in terms of like seeing ghosts and then not necessarily seeing the field at all, with some of like the Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold performances I've seen against the Patriots. Like the pick six on the pick six, if he just throws it with some anticipation at the top of his drop, it's open at the top of the screen, and he's not even looking there initially. And they're playing like a quarter half coverage where they have 3 guys running on the right side of the formation into routes into 6 defenders. It's clear as day that the one-on-one matchup in the throw, the read, is taking him over to the left sideline. So it was open initially, but he threw it 2.5 seconds too late.
Yeah.
And I've never seen Mac in particular like lose sight of the field like that. Like his field vision, where his eyes were, where the decision making, all of that. And I think that the one thing that if you want to be positive about it, is that was so uncharacteristically awful for Mac Jones. Like the way that just his process was just terrible.
And some of it was with Micah Parsons out of the game.
Yeah,
you know?
and I watched a bunch of Mac yesterday I know last week we talked about Bedard's review, and I gotta say I don't really agree that the pass protection was the biggest issue for them. I mean, it's certainly a problem, and there were mistakes, but I must have watched every third down that they had 3-4 times each, and Mac was just not in sync, drifting into pressure. He was late on a lot of the throws, and I think that allowed the pressure to get to him. But I also just didn't really agree with Greg. I thought Evan and I talked about, there were throws there to be made if he got it out quick, if he saw it.
Yeah.
He had Parker on at least 2 crossers that were there.
Give me something to do this afternoon. Read Greg.
Well,
I didn't, because I haven't seen it.
And I didn't. He was more tweeting just about how terrible the pass protection was, and I'm not going to tell you the pass protection was
See,
good.
I think 2 things can be true at the same time. I looked at it. Obviously, we know how, because Mike and I did the whole post-game show, so I know how Mike feels, and I agree with him. I think the pass protection was bad, and I think that he was quote unquote under pressure a lot.
But he made it worse.
But it wasn't to the point where, yes, that's perfectly put. He made it worse. It wasn't to the point where he was running for his life, and he was acting as if he needed to run for his life. So you can have numbers that tell me that he was under pressure 50 whatever % of the time. I wouldn't argue with that. But I would also argue that he didn't handle it like I've seen him handle it in the past. To Evan's point,
Especially
I've seen him
against
show
Philly.
better. Yeah, I've seen him show better poise in the pocket.
So
This
what do you-
game, for whatever reason,
Right.
he did not show any poise. in
So
the
what
pocket.
do you
off the
think
rails.
was the reason? Like, just guessing. We don't know.
I think it's just unraveled for him. I mean, I think he started to press, and I think it was just one of those games where he lost it. But just real quick, like it had me wondering if a quarterback breaks the pocket and I guess there was pressure there, but he could have just did a little move up and take a little sidestep. Do they qualify that as a pressure, even if though he could have gotten around?
Yeah.
He broke the pocket of his own volition.
Like I said, I thought there was a
Unforced
lot of
pressure.
I thought
Yeah.
there was a lot of very quick pressure, but not to the point where it should have impacted where his head was going. I thought he was watching the rush.
Yep.
Instead of looking, and that's why. And I thought Greg Olsen did a really good job at times during the game of showing, this is an easy little throw right here. There's a 4-yard crosser to Devontae Parker.
It was there.
Where he's not like wide open, like there's a guy on him, but that's he's kind of NFL open. And I thought Greg Olsen did a good job of not killing him, but saying these are throws that need to be made. And I think instead of making those throws, he was watching Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Who was an ongoing, listen,
Yeah.
he was an ongoing problem. He's a great player.
It wasn't just him too. I think it was other guys. Like there was one, where the guard kind of came across Andrews and Andrews kind of took him and it looked like he might have gotten through, but he was kind of falling down. So it wasn't like he's coming up the middle. He's kind of falling. And it was just so many times where like, Mac, do a little step to the left and fire the ball. Like, and it seemed as soon as he felt like there was going to be pressure, he was out of his mind and doing something wrong.
The strip sack to me was infuriating. Like, he's sort of like jogging to the left down near his goal line. Like, do you not think that someone's coming? Like, there was no awareness on that
no
play
one is
at
coming,
all.
Paul. No one is coming.
It's just us. I
Well,
know.
that is the point, though.
Coincidence?
Is no one is like Mac is going to be the quarterback of this team, barring injury.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I agree.
he's going to be the quarterback, and to get him back on the tracks here is just. It starts with him really getting back to where he was, I thought, in week 1, where he did manage the pocket well, I thought. And he did beat pressure by a quick release and getting the ball out on time and those different types of things. In this game, I watched the offensive line multiple times through because 50% pressure rate from Next Gen, 50% pressure rate from PFF. Other people are telling me.
So everybody was in control. Everybody was in agreement on
That's
that.
what they're saying.
Everybody was telling me that the pressure was horrible and that Onwenu was bad and Vidarian Lowe he was bad. Like we all could see that he gave up nine pressures in this game.
19 pressures in his 2
Nine.
starts.
17 in his 2 starts.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, sorry.
17.
I thought it was 10 last week.
And so he was dreadful in this game. But in general, I thought that there was a lot of opportunities to just make some layups and get the football out and get the ball out of the pocket. And he made 2 of his turnovers were in clean pockets. So you sit there and blame the the pick 6 there. He's in a clean pocket and he panics. He panicked, and I've never seen Mac. I honestly started to question in the second quarter if he even knew what play they were running, because when I say that I mean as the ball was snapped, he lost his mind totally, and you kind of wonder if his eyes just weren't even going anywhere, and you just kind of wonder if he just lost all sense of the game at that point.
Right. So that's why when Mike was talking about all the pressure, I'm not telling you that I disagree with the rankings. I'm telling you that there were plays that pressure presented itself that he just needed to throw the ball, like Evan just explained he did throughout the Philadelphia game, where he threw it in 2.01 whatever seconds on average. And that's how they negated that pass rush, is they got it out really quickly. Now, maybe he took a lot of hits in that game. He didn't want to take any more. I don't know what the reason is, but for whatever reason, he didn't do the same thing in this game that he has, I think, generally. Because I am not a believer in Mac Jones future. I don't think that's a secret. But I haven't been down on Mac Jones to the point where he played on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's a totally different animal. Like,
and that's
he's a better player than that.
Agreed.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's, and I mean, I just to say it, like I acknowledge, like this was, a terrible game for him. And it's hard because, like you said, Paul, you said it many times, like he hasn't really won a game or lost a game, and now this feels like the first loss.
Yeah.
So you can feel the energy of Patriots Nation being like, now we have our excuse to say, that's it, we're done with
I
this.
will say that I did, and I was on the mailbag. I got a handful of those, and we never get them.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say, look, I mean, I'm on Paul's side of the street with this generally, but I'm saying I think we need to just give him this week to see him have the ability to bounce back, because I think every player has a game like this at some point in their career, and you have to be a little bit flexible with that performance. And I just look, like I said, there's a long season to go. There's no reason to jump off the bridge right now. I mean, as much as we all want to, and we've been seeing the same thing, and I'm sure Paul can tell you I was frustrated watching the game. Like, this is the same thing we're watching over and over again, but it's just hard to jump off the bridge when they just didn't bring their game. They didn't bring their game in that one. I want to judge them off of one where, all right, at least like.
But if you're the Saints and you looked at that game, are you chomping at the bit right now?
Yeah.
And saying, okay.
Yeah, and that's why I don't know, and it goes back to like Paul's 50-50 thing where, I mean, I'm feeling a little bit down where I'm like, I feel like 40-60 on those games with the Patriots just because of the defensive injuries and all that. But I think the Saints are kind of a perfect team for this because they have a respectable defense. They certainly have pieces. The Patriots are not going to get handed this game, offensively at least. And I think that it'll give them a chance to at least go against a good defense, try to get right, but don't let those weapons on the other side.
I just
get
would
loose.
like to see the game unfold properly as opposed to like -3 turnovers or +3 turnovers. Like I'd like to see what
Straight up.
happens. Just the teams play. If they if these two teams want to play close to the vest. I don't know how healthy Derek Carr is. I didn't get a chance to watch a ton of that game. The final score of that game was deceptive. It was a touchdown game with about 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
It was 17-9. But Derek Carr only threw for like 130 yards.
Yeah, he set a career high for passes behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
Kamara
Tells
had
you everything,
Kamara
yeah.
had 13 catches for 33 yards. That set a record for the most catches, fewest yards in the history of the league. Seriously. So I don't know how much of that had to do with his health.
Yeah.
And how much of it had to do with just their offense is struggling. I know my boy, Pete Carmichael, is under a lot of fire there. Former teammate of mine, Fred.
Everett?
Offensive coordinator for the Saints.
Been there
No,
forever.
Boston Park League. Well, he was the offensive coordinator for a long time, but didn't call
Teammate in
plays.
softball.
Right.
Now he
Yeah,
calls.
right.
No,
Men's league.
baseball.
I know.
Baseball.
Yeah, no,
He was a good player.
The Bucks played a lot of too high defense and basically just dare Derek Carr to beat them outside the numbers. Sound familiar?
Now they
And,
had it, but
he
they did have a great deep ball to Olave that
Dropped it.
I mean,
Kind of just
got to have that
got a
one.
hand in there. It was tough.
Could have changed the complexion of the game. When you're that kind of an offense, and you're setting up a shot or two, and then you get it, and then you miss it.
Yeah.
That's how you
I
end up
think-
throwing
I
for
thought they
130 yards and get 9 points.
I actually thought that they had two that they could have hit down the field. The first one was the drop or ish, if you want to call it
the
that.
throw was a little late too. I thought he
Yeah.
was open and he didn't get it to him.
And then the other one, just had a really fun time watching Vita Vea. My God, is that guy a monster? And he was right in his lap, and Carr couldn't get enough on
And
him.
it's another team. I mean, we can get to this more tomorrow, but another team with a lot of problems in their offensive line. Cesar Ruiz didn't play because of a concussion. Pete had to leave the game because of a concussion. So those guys may or may not be available. They've struggled at right tackle with Penning, a little bit too. So it's
their
mirror images.
right
I'm telling you.
guard. Their right guard had a really. I think that's Ruiz's backup. I believe he had a pretty rough game. I think that for the Patriots offense, it's just if you're out on Mac Jones, like I'm not going to blame you. Like I'm not going to keep pounding the table for a guy that clearly just has limitations and is struggling. But why I'm in such a dark place with the team is because, like, is this going to be better with Drake May next year? Like, is that what you're trying to tell me? Like, even if they lose a bunch of games and they get a top 10 pick, how is it going to? Unless they change their philosophy.
This is
It's more of an off.
This is what I've been preparing. Prior to, because Evan kind of opened the door to what to say. Okay, so you get Caleb Williams. How is it going to be better if you stick with the same philosophy?
I was waiting for a statement.
And I've come to the point now where when it comes to Bill Belichick, who runs this team, I still think he's the best head coach in the league. I don't know who I would rather have other than him. And I also think he's a good GM. But my definition of GM goes beyond just personnel. It's running the whole football. I still think he's one of the best. But I believe in 2024, there needs to be whatever you want to call the person, a personnel director, GM, whatever you want to call that person answers to Robert Kraft. And whether it's Matt Groh or somebody else that they bring in, we need somebody to head up personnel that answers to the Krafts, Jonathan and Robert, and not to Bill. And obviously they all work together, and hopefully, and I know Bill has to be on board with this because, it doesn't work if he's not. But that's the conditions.
Yeah.
That's the conditions. That's what needs to happen, in my opinion.
It's a really interesting scenario, but what I think is different here, I understand what you're saying about Bill has to be on board with it. So we'll play the game and hypothetical it and say Bill's on board with it. Is Bill also on board with changing his philosophy of how do you win games? Because if you don't change that, he's not the best head coach in football.
Right. No,
you can keep saying that this is not coming at you. We can all keep saying that he's the best head coach in football, but if he really believes that playing stout defense, running the ball, and being good on special teams is the key to success, he's not the best head coach in football anymore.
Yeah. No, and that's a fair statement, and I thought about that as well. And, part of this is that, Bill O'Brien's still here, and he's running the offense. But
I feel like it's not enough to have Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien needs the firepower. He needs the pieces. So if this GM could get the personnel in here to make this better and actually allow Bill O'Brien to run an effective offense and not be telling him, to Paul's point, that you have to run the ball.
Right.
I think this is Evan's point about what changes if it's Drake May or Caleb Williams if you still think you need receivers that block.
Yep.
Well, listen,
do you know what I mean? Like
if you're going to draft a quarterback in the top 5, if you're lucky to have that or unlucky enough to have that, and your philosophy is going to be run, then what are we doing? Why bother drafting a quarterback in the top 5 if that's what you're going to do? Anyone can hand off the ball. So I'm assuming that if you're making a commitment to draft this guy in the top 5, you're going to use him.
Yeah.
And
not only use him, but get some pieces
and you
around
need the
him.
pieces
No,
around.
I know he'll use Caleb Williams, but if Caleb Williams it's still not going to be as productive as it could be.
It's still going to look bad
if you have this philosophy.
It's still going to look bad. If you put a rookie quarterback next year behind a line like this, and with receivers like that, it's still going to be bad.
I know we say that Bill is stuck in his philosophy.
No, I'm saying if.
Right.
If.
And right now it seems that is what he wants to do. Maybe because he agrees with us that I don't have the right personnel. We're not that good. And maybe and again, I'm speaking for myself. Maybe he thinks that Mac isn't that good.
But we would all agree with him that Mac isn't that good. So why is your answer Juju Smith-Schuster and Mike Gesicki? Like, if you really wanted to win this season, wouldn't the answer be, well, let's look at what Miami did for Tua, or let's look at what the Eagles did for Jalen Hurts, or let's look at what all these other
and maybe
teams
he's
did.
saying if I had Jalen Hurts, I'd do the same thing.
I'm just confused as to, like, if your goal is to win football games and you think your quarterback isn't all that great, then wouldn't the answer to that be to surround the quarterback with as much talent as possible so that he doesn't have to do as much? Because that's what's crystal clear about all of this. They don't.
Well, let me. You're right, and I think 2 years ago they attempted that, and it just didn't work out as much as they thought it would.
They didn't.
I wouldn't say no.
What did they attempt 2 years ago?
2 years ago, those were Equate brand firepower.
They were the top of the market guys. They were the best
But
guys
Fred,
available.
they were the top of the market. That market.
Yeah.
That's right.
But they weren't that caliber of player. They weren't A.J. Brown. And by the way, those are the guys that went in those markets.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams and A.J. Brown got traded while you were signing those guys.
Because they didn't want to give up the assets. They wanted to get
right. So don't tell me that they did that.
Okay. Then. But they also believe that those assets are part of building this team back to contention. They didn't want to give up those assets. I'm just saying that if Bill stays, I believe we need a personnel guy that answers to the Crafts, not to Bill.
Just as a response to that, like, does that give that personnel guy control of the 90-man roster?
Well,
because
essentially, yes.
Under your guys, like that's why I said we have to play it hypothetically.
Yeah.
So Bill is completely saying, you guys do whatever you want with the personnel.
No, of course he has input.
No, but I'm saying that's the only way it would work.
Yeah.
I just don't think he wants to coach a team. I don't think he thinks that the fancy wide receivers are the way to go about it.
Well, then
and like I said, the year before, like part of his job should have been to understand where things were going. So just because you got Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith and paid $50 million for these tight ends that aren't worth that amount of money, they're not the kind of playmakers. The next year, you had top flight weapons changing teams, multiple top flight weapons with Brown and Hill and Adams and even Hollywood Brown, for God's sakes, would be an improvement over what you have speed-wise. And that's part of being a good GM is recognizing where that market's going.
And going forward, somebody else would be the ultimate decider of that.
I just don't think he'll be the head coach if that's the way you go.
And that might be true. You might be right.
But I believe
that's where I
But
land.
I believe that's how you need to go.
I don't know.
Because I still believe he's the best head coach in the league.
I don't.
I do.
I haven't really thought that in a while, to be honest with you. I see other teams that have talent that's, not as great as what the Patriots had in their heyday, and certainly
that's it for me, Paul. I mean, that's what does a coach do? Like if a coach, I said it 100 times last week, is elevate that personnel. But I just think it's funny because we're kind of coming back to the Terry Glenn, Bill Parcells Kraft thing. Like it just sounds like we're going. You know what I mean? Like that's what happened, right?
Well,
I mean,
but
someone else went and tried to get the receiver.
What happened was
and he didn't want
Robert
the
Kraft
receiver.
sided with Bobby Greer. Yeah. Robert Kraft had a personnel guy, and he said, if I'm going to spend all this money to my scouting department, we're going to listen to what they say.
But I think it comes back to, I don't know if you meant to make this point, it's a philosophy with that position.
Yeah.
I think it goes back. It goes back that far.
Yeah.
That's not how you do it.
Yeah.
And as much as I love Parcells was wrong. Terry Glenn was how you do it. Now, he ended up being right because Terry Glenn wasn't mature enough to handle things
But he could play.
off the field. But he showed you immediately that he could play and was a big part of a team that went to the Super Bowl.
I also would just say that to me, it's also not just about receivers.
Yeah.
What they've done with the tackles over the last couple of years is malpractice. Like they went into the season with Riley Reif and Calvin Anderson as their top two options at right tackle, and now they have to play a guy that they traded for who is going to get cut by the team that he was on previously, and Vidarian Lowe can't block anybody.
Again,
how bad is Calvin Anderson if he can't be
all of the above is why I believe you need a guy now who has that autonomy.
Yeah. But I needed to be the coach because I don't trust just some random guy to be lockstep with the coach.
But that works on a lot of teams.
No, but I don't think that Bill is going to be
okay
lockstep with Matt Groh. I have control now. Okay, now we're going to do the Evan plan, and we're going to get weapons, and we're going to get tackles, and we're going to get maybe some defensive linemen that can move and not just take up space. I don't think Bill will be on board with that.
Yeah, I just you had a quarterback in Mac Jones that has his limitations. We all can see that. We can all tell that he is not going to be the driving force that's going to win you football games. So when you look at his limitations, like the number one thing with his limitations is a lack of mobility and a lack of arm talent. So what do you need to do? You need to protect him, and you need to create bigger passing lanes because he's not going to throw guys open. He's not going to scramble and make these great plays off platform and stuff like that. So you need to make it easier for him. You need to protect him, and you need to get guys that can get open. They don't have either one of those boxes checked. And so unless you're telling me that there's so few quarterbacks that succeed pretty much regardless of the environment that they are in. Even this year with Mahomes, he's starting to feel some of the growing pains of that offense and not having Tyreek and not having all the weapons that they've had in the past. So at some point, you have to look at that and say that.
But it sounds to me what you're saying is I want a Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay type of head coach.
150%.
Okay.
Yeah, you need someone that's
what I want.
Who?
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson's a good one. I like the.
And where is he right now?
Offensive coordinator for the Lions.
I like Waldron in Seattle too. I think he does a lot of creative
Now,
things.
We know him well.
No, he was here.
Yeah, he was here.
Paul's
So
guy
that's
on the
an
Cardinals.
Yeah.
My fear,
Paul's Wellesley guy from the Cardinals, who evidently can light up even the Niners.
my guess is that if you have a new coach in here next year, then you're going to have a new quarterback as well.
Yeah.
And if those two things happen, I don't like the idea of a defensive-minded head coach developing that quarterback. Unless you're telling,
Well, it would be Bill O'Brien.
I guess I like that a little bit better, but how long is Bill O'Brien going to be here for? Because if he leaves the guy just like Josh McDaniels did after his 1 year,
I
then
think Bill O'Brien already looks like a guy who might be gone. And there's reports that say that he's sort of in line with that Michigan State job.
Oh, really?
I don't.
Oh wow.
There's one more thing though I just want to bring up with this, like, because next year they're going to have at least 3 openings on their offensive line. They're going to have no tight ends, and they have Ramondre as their running back, and if you want to call Kevin Harris in there too. But
He'll
like,
be going into his last year.
so there's huge lifting to be done outside of the quarterback and the
Agreed.
weapons, which is,
Agreed.
and,
Yeah.
and so in some ways I feel like, it's a little bit of an opportunity, but I also just wonder, like, how much resources do you have to add 2 tackles, maybe 2 running backs?
But this
a
is why you
quarterback,
can't spend.
like, there's a
This is
lot
why you
of
can't
things to
spend
be done.
money on nose tackles and guards, right? Like this is
Long
why.
snappers.
This is why the resources need to be allocated properly because there is a lot of things that need to be fixed.
By the way, Paul, the Patriots have fallen to 32nd in special teams in DVOA, so they're
really?
officially the last place team in DVOA.
Funny how Paul was ahead of the curve on that.
A lot of that is
Also,
because of missed field goals.
I feel like they could have been chipping away at some of this stuff that you brought up just now, Mike. I feel like, but they've been focusing on other things that you're like, why are they re-signing this person? Why are they bringing in this person? They could have been chipping away at some of these holes that are going to be there next year, as well as.
But
addressing
I
some
think
of the
that
needs.
in some ways, I think that some of these positions that they value a little bit more than other people are filled. Like I think that you will have guards because you drafted like 16 of them, and you have Cole Strange under contract too. I think you will have defensive linemen here next year that can play. I don't think you need to go out and spend $20 million on a defensive end next year. So I think that there are places, Christian Gonzalez will be back and will be healthy as your number 1 corner. So some of these boxes have been checked already, but they just ignore the other the more important boxes. They the things that they have prioritized are just not things that are worth prioritizing. And on top of that, we go back to those day 2 draft picks all the time from this past draft. Keon White played 9 snaps before the game got out of hand in this game. Marty Mapu played a little bit more in this game, but that's a player that's like the 4th safety on this team right now. I haven't really like Keon White, at least in his limited snaps, I notice him. I haven't really noticed much from Mapu other than him hitting Waddle in the head. They just had more pressing needs than those 2 positions.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally agree with that.
And so now they're in a spot where Marty Mapu might end up being a nice player for them down the line, but he's not playing over Jabril Peppers. He's not playing over Kyle Duggar. He's starting now to play over Adrian Phillips, but like he's your 3rd safety at best. Whereas, with some of the guys that have panned out in the draft, like that could have been Marvin Mims, or that could have been DeJuan Jones, or that could have been a player that could help you immediately.
Who's the other one that you got? The other receiver, Josh Downs?
Downs.
Like?
I like Downs, yeah.
I liked
but I mean,
Rice from Kansas City, who's making some plays.
You brought up the edge, though. I mean, Uche's a free agent. Judon will now be coming off of major injury at 32 next year.
Right. So that's
what you got.
So
you
that's
got
part of it, like that, because I know
a free agent too.
I know there's been a lot made of they have a lot of money, and they're going to have a lot of cap space, and they'll have a lot of money to spend next year. But what I worry about is retaining too many of those guys, and I'm not suggesting you let them all go, but how much money do you have to eat away to retain Duggar if you do? And to Evan's point, maybe you don't need to, even though I love Kyle Duggar. I think he's a really good player. But maybe if you have Mapu and you want to have him have a bigger role next year,
Mapu and Peppers,
you can let him go. Yeah, I'm not as high on your guy as you are, but
are you really you really don't like him
Peppers?
at all?
I think is just a thoroughly average player who
Really?
makes a big hit or two every week and
I'm
gets
surprised.
fined
He's made a lot of
$40,000
plays since
for
he's
it.
been here. I think you're being.
I thought the play he made on the screen pass 2 weeks ago was the best play that I've seen him make as a Patriot.
Poor Randall Cobb.
Yeah, I thought that was the best play I've seen him make as a Patriot. I haven't seen a lot of those.
Agree to disagree.
That's okay. That's what we're all here for, right? We're all here to talk about different things. like a Wenu. Like, do you re-sign him, or do you say, no, I got Mafi, I got one of these guys should be able to be like. That's what you hope for.
Yeah.
I think,
but at the same
Fred's
time, you
GM
need guys.
guy.
You need guys to fill in.
Fred's GM guy would look at the guard situation and be like, Mafi can play, right? And that would be what they would roll, and that might be what the Patriots roll with. But are they going to use the $10 million of not signing Mike Onwenu? Like, where are they going to put that money? Because this offseason they put that money on signing like 30 average players, and not actually
moving the needle.
So so that's when I'm thinking about the head, because I was doing the block. I was getting killed. I mean. The natives were restless. I mean, I was getting into fights. It was terrible.
Who you fighting?
And I wasn't getting in fights with people's opinion about what we're talking about. It's just the venom that they were. And I'm like, people, I think somebody actually screenshotted one of my I said, it's not about who's right or who's wrong at this point. Why the venom? It's just
Is this
football.
cyberbullying?
I said, unless
Right
your
now?
kid's future is tied up in this game, why are we like going nuts here?
Yeah.
I mean, it was really getting nasty.
I guess we're lucky at our halftime talks. They weren't. They weren't.
Yeah.
Too
Do you know Mike and I had to speak at halftime?
I know, and I heard it wasn't pretty. But
some like 10-year-old kid asked if we were going to get rid of Mac.
So and obviously most of it was Bill and Mac. That's where the venom was
would agree.
pointed.
Sure.
As far as Mac goes, I'm still willing to give it this season.
I don't think you really have a choice.
No.
But you know what I mean, like in terms of the 5th-year option and all that. I'm not like, there are people right now that say, "That's it, he's out." I mean, they're talking. People were saying cut him after the game. I'm serious.
Oh, wow.
I'm 100% serious. Cut him after the game.
If you had an option, I could understand that, but you don't.
Well, they don't care. It's like,
but
just
what I'm
move on.
saying
Somebody
is,
behind
well,
you.
but I'm trying to look at it realistically from the other point of view. Just because I disagree with it, like I wouldn't be doing that. But if like Will Greer was here the whole year and you just said, we got to get him a chance to play. Like, I think they have an idea of Zappe. I think they're telling you what they think of Zappe on multiple fronts. They've already cut him, and they're bringing in anybody with a pulse to come in and try to be the number 2 guy, right? It was Matt Corral. It was Ian Book, and now it's Will Greer.
Right.
Like, clearly they're looking for a number 2 option that's better than Bailey Zappe. So if one of those guys was around for, like, the whole year and knew the whole system, I wouldn't tell you that that's foolish. Yeah. But you don't have any options.
Yeah, but
your options are play a guy that I already cut that I don't like.
Obviously, they're
Or a
giving
guy
up
who's
on
not ready.
They're giving up in the season, and they're saying that out of spite. They're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So, and I understand where they're coming from, but that's the level that we were at. I'm not there. I'm saying let's just see what this kid can do the rest of the season.
Because you sounded like you were there at the beginning of the show.
I mean,
But
I can't.
I'm
help
just talking
but
about particularly Mac.
I'll jump on this grenade, but I mean, for me, with all the holes that they have and all the conversations we've had about are they realistically going to get Drake May? They're not going to get Caleb Williams first overall. Like, to me right now, where I sit, I still think Mac is the quarterback next year, and you got to do everything you can.
Well, you're saying they're not going to get
the
Caleb
pieces.
Williams first overall. They're in the running.
Well, if you
Right
get to
now.
that point, then you
Right
do it. But I think you keep playing Mac, and then you.
Who is he?
I think
don't
it's.
know.
No, I'm just being realistic here.
They've broken Fred.
I think it's easier to get
Fred. You're in real.
I think it'll be easier to get one of the top wide receivers than it will be to get one of the top quarterbacks. And I
he
think
will never draft a wide receiver in the top 10.
that's fair.
Never.
But if you're going with somebody new,
So, just like off the top of your head, don't give it any thought. What do you think the Patriots' record will be when the season's over?
8-9.
Okay.
Ooh!
Okay.
8 wins.
Wow.
So that's why you don't think there's any chance to get a quad. I think they're on the way to like a five win team, and if you are, you're in the top 5.
Yeah, and what killed me was losing Judon and Gonzalez, because your defense was your hope at this point. I'm saying the ceiling right now is 6-11.
Yeah, I would say that like those 9 games. So let's don't count Buffalo twice, Miami, and Kansas City. I think we'd all agree you can pull an upset. Upsets happen in the league all the time. Arizona just beat Dallas, right?
All right, so
but those 4 games, that gives you 7 losses. So the other 9 games,
6-3.
Yeah, well, that's not getting you to 8 and 9.
7-2.
No.
Like 7-2
I'm literally looking
for all games.
I'm going to talk myself into it live right
No. I'm not trying to talk you out of it, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say, like, you think they can go 8 and 9. I think Fred and I are kind of at the 6-win thing because What I see 9 games that I would say like New Orleans, Vegas, Denver, Pittsburgh, Indy, Washington, the Jets, the Chargers, and the Giants. Those are the other 9 games. I see 5-4 or 4-5. I think every one of those games could go either way, and when you have a lot of games that could go either way, they generally go either way.
Right.
I don't think they'll lose them all, but I think it's highly unrealistic to expect them to go 8-1 in those 9 games.
Well, if they get to that point,
to go 9-8.
8-9. If they get to that point, though, then
Even
it changes
7-1.
it. I mean, it changes everything. There's not going to be, a drum beat to bring this team back if they win 5 or 6 games this season. I mean, it'll be turnover. I mean, no one's going to.
The other thing that is, I'm sorry, I just want to fit. The other thing that has me losing my hope a little, because remember, I started the season with no expectations but hope, and the reason why I'm losing that hope is because I don't see what's going to happen on offense that's going to fix it. Every week so far, I've been saying, okay, this is the week. They're going to start turning things around. I don't see what's going to happen on offense that's going to make things better. I don't see it. Please, someone tell me where the thing that is going to happen, but I don't see it.
The only thing that I can give you, because you asked for it, is
please,
the offensive line should be better than this. I'm not saying that they are going to be an elite top 5 offensive line. They should not be the worst offensive line in the NFL. They just shouldn't. And if you can figure out a better solution at right tackle than Vidarian Lowe, and maybe get Cole Strange to, be good again, or I don't even know if again is the right word, that they should be better on the line moving forward.
Okay.
They should be. And if you are, then you're looking at a team that's, maybe a little bit more running the football a little bit better and doing some of those little things a little bit better. And are they going to be explosive and put up 30 points a game? No, of course not. But that's the place to start.
There were very few givens when it came to the offense going into the season, but one of them was, we think we got a pretty good back of Ramondre Stevenson. But even he's having trouble right now. And you could chalk it up to just the line in front of him, but he just doesn't look right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that there's also just a degree of when a football offense isn't playing well, it all looks terrible.
You're right.
It all looks terrible.
You're right.
And and I'm not saying that they're going to be even good, but it'll be better.
And that's what you have coaches for, and that's what Monday through Saturdays for is just to hey, let's calm down, let's break it down, let's watch exactly what this is why this happened. You can fix this. I just don't know on offense what that is at this point, or if it can be. But, I'll go with Evan. Let's say the line plays well. That answers a lot of questions if they can start playing better.
Yeah, gives Max some time.
Gives Max some time, opens some holes.
And I think that's realistic. As they play more together, they should get better, right?
Yeah.
I just don't know if that's the difference between, 3 more scores, 4 more scores a game, which they need to do to get to an average level of offense.
I think that they need to do something drastic on the offensive line. Drastic. Like kicking on Wenu to tackle. I think you kick on Wenu to tackle.
Who, by the way, had one of his worst games.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him. I think it's getting a little bit overblown how bad he was.
What about Collins?
Lyle Collins, if he's healthy, I guess.
Supposedly he passed a physical. I mean, that might have been agent speak from his agent. Who knows?
He passed a physical.
I think you're at the point with the offensive
the last guy
line
they signed didn't pass a physical. That guy in the
Marquand McCall.
Hello, goodbye.
It's amazing how he remembers the names.
Well, he loved that guy.
Yeah. I think you need to. You're at the point now where you have 4 games to judge, and 2 of Vidarian Lowe, where this is not NFL caliber.
Yeah, it was like he played left tackle the first game, and you're like, hey, like the game didn't fall apart. He's okay. And then you're like 3 games in a row now.
And I kind of brought it up. Like it reflects really poorly on Calvin Anderson, who I think we all were kind of like, this is the guy that they're bringing in that they have some kind of designs on because they didn't really sign anyone else. I mean, we know what Riley Reif was, and that's a maybe hold the fort for a few games kind of a guy. But those were the moves that they were kind of trumpeting, and now that guy can't beat Vidarian Lowe out at right tackle.
So you want to give
great point.
You want to have a little hope?
Yes.
A team that lost
Lunch is coming?
A team that lost 70-0 2 weeks ago came back and came from behind and won a game.
Yeah. It was 70-20, first of all. But they came from behind and beat a winless team.
Okay, but
that hasn't won.
But they didn't collapse.
The last game that team won was when they beat you.
They didn't collapse. Even when they started losing the game after giving up 70 points, looked like they were going to
No,
lose
and
another one.
like-
They still came back. So there's hope.
Yeah, I don't want to get the
But
being
we still have yet to see this team be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's
And I have no illusions that what you saw Sunday is what the team is. I don't think it's
No,
that
but
bad.
it's
That
not-
was a
right.
bad performance.
But it's not all of a sudden the 2007 Patriot. Like they're.
But if
they're-
you're asking
they
if they were playing
confident.
Buffalo this week, would I give them a chance? No.
No.
Move on Wendy to tackle. Start Mafia at right guard. Get Cole Strange back at left guard. And let's see what it looks like. Those are 5 offensive linemen that I think are NFL caliber players. I do not think that Vidarian Lowe is an NFL caliber player. So at least you have 5 guys that can play at this level. And I'm, along with a lot of other offensive coaches that I could call out right now, like Adrian Clem's got to start making his money. Like you had a lot of injuries. You had poor continuity all summer long. I get all of that. But at some point in time, you're 4 weeks into the season now. You've had relatively the same group for a couple weeks. You got to start seeing some results from the line because the run game, I still have scheme questions with the run game. But in general, you got to block some people. Like, that's how you get this thing going. It's improve up front.
Yeah. All right, 855-PASS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. Webradio@patriots.com is the email address. Obviously, a lot of people want to weigh in here, so let's get going. Colin's in Texas. What's up, Colin?
Hey, guys. Just had 2 quick points and wanted to end on a positive note if you give me the time. So really just the first thing, I was at the game, and just the 40% Patriots fans there, just disappointing.
There were a lot of Patriots fans, yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're walking around, and we were at the game like 8 years ago whenever they were here, and we're walking out, chanting Brady, going through the halls, and it was glorious. And this was 180 degrees opposite of what it was. And it's disappointing, too, because you watch that first half of the Cardinals game, and they're putting up a fight, and they're trying to actively give away assets and build for the future and tank, if you will. Mm-hmm. And we're not even keeping up with that, and it's a shame.
Yep.
Right, and I think that's where Evan and I started with, the Keon Whites and the Mapus of the world. Like, you can quote unquote tank, and I know that no one will ever use that word, and play your butt off, just like Arizona is, and they're playing really hard, but they've stripped away some guys that might be the difference between winning and losing some of these close games.
I like the tank where you're playing players that are promising, and you're just like, look, we're just going to go for it. And if Keon White does what he did last week and rushes upfield and loses his gap, and they run right by him, all right, we'll live with it. Let's let them make these mistakes now for the future.
Right. And the Judon thing that I would worry about is, so they gave him a little bump this year to get him back in training camp, right? So what happens the year after that?
It's the Stephon Gilmore.
Becomes Stephon Gilmore, and that guy ends up being gone.
Yeah.
Now, maybe in a warped way, the injury helps you there because he's going to have a hard time saying, I need more money when I only played 4 games.
Yeah.
So who knows?
What else, Colin?
Yeah, and, I mean, we walked away saying we should have just forfeited, because we would have still had Gonzo, we still would have had Junior. To end on a positive note, I did visit the hall at Patriots Place and just want to let everybody know it's all it's cracked up to be. I even ran into Tamara and Mike and Paul there, and it was awesome to meet you guys. And
did you get an autograph from Paul?
Place.
Don't be mean.
So if you're trying to get the positivity back in your life, go to the hall. Live through the past joys, and you guys have a wonderful day.
All right, thanks
Colin. I wonder if he visited the Jabril Peppers exhibit.
What's up, Patty?
The statue up front.
Wants to take cheap shots.
What's up, everyone?
Hey.
So I'll make a quick point, and I got a question for everyone. I'm with you, Freddie. Let's crash for Caleb. Let's rip this thing down to the frickin' studs and start over. New head coach, new quarterback, new GM. Well, let's do it. My question, though, is why do you think, and I'm not just our team specifically, but why do you think there's so many injuries in the NFL? Like over the past few years, is it because of the CBA agreement, and now they practice year-round?
I think,
I know Bill said the time didn't change. Like they still have the same amount of time, but before it was you went to training camp and that was it.
I think there's always. Are there any more this year than any other year?
I don't know. Not that I've clocked.
Yeah.
I think we do this every year,
Yeah.
and I don't have the information in front of me,
Patty.
so Patty could have it right. But I feel like like Tre'Davious White was like the most recent one.
Yeah.
He goes down with a torn Achilles.
Aaron Rodgers, obviously, is a big one.
It does seem like there's a lot of serious injuries to
high profile
high-profile players. But I don't think there's any more than normal.
Those 2 injuries to Gonzo, I mean, those are just kind of falling the
That's
wrong way
weird.
kind of thing.
Like, to me, like the Marcus Jones and Gonzalez torn labrum for both of them.
Both kind of get landed on.
Kind of, that's weird to me.
Well, it's funny. There's certain years that like there's a rash of certain injuries. Like one year it's all hamstrings. This year it's all arms and shoulders.
Yeah. Remember the thumb year? There was a year where like there were like 3 or 4 guys that all had broken thumbs.
Yeah, it's weird how that happens sometimes. One more, and then we'll get to Paul's food. Donnie's in Pittsburgh. What's up, Donnie?
He's so mean to me.
Hey, Al. Thanks for taking the call. Thankfully, Steelers embarrassed themselves equally this week, so I'm not getting bullied out here.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of done with Mac. He's a college quarterback. That's where we're at. Last time I called and when I emailed in, I talked about being 1 for 7 on the first 7 drives against the Dolphins. Mac's career conversion rate on offensive drives so far, including Dallas, is 37%. This year, he's 10 out of 48 for 20%. This might sound harsh or unfair, but those are Brandon Weeden numbers. Brandon Weeden's 2 years in the league. He was given 8 starts his second year before the Browns decided
but he was
it was
40.
and he was 20 for 91 that year, which is the pace Mac is currently on for 8 games right now. So, whether he's the only option we have to ride out this year, that might just be the reality, but he is not an NFL quarterback, and even if Zappe is just an NFL backup, that might be the better option this year.
Yep.
And I'll let you guys chew on that.
All right. Thanks, Donnie. No, Donnie did his homework. So
I don't know.
Call me in with Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, I don't know that he's not an NFL quarterback. I don't know if he's a playoff caliber NFL quarterback. I'll say that. But what was that? Those numbers that Warren Sharp had out yesterday? Just percentage of drives that end in a punt or a turnover, and the Patriots are dead last.
Yeah. And scores, they're dead last too. Like same thing. Like number of scores that end.
They're 31st in scoring.
Again,
I think they jumped up to 30th with the Giants game last night.
Maybe a better offensive line fixes that. I'm talking about this year, 2023. But I don't know. I'm losing hope really quickly about this offense. So, all right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. More calls and emails here on Patriots Unfiltered.
Get in on the action with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the New England Patriots. New customers can download the DraftKings app now and play free for millions in prizes using code PATS. That's code PATS only at DraftKings. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
And Logan, everyone, a very pleasant good afternoon. Welcome to Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium for a Week 4 encounter of the 1-2 New England Patriots and the 2-1 Dallas Cowboys. Bob Sosi with Scott Zolak. It is great to have you with us. Now with an empty set on 2nd and 4. Prescott takes the shotgun snap. Good coverage. He rolls to the near side and he finds an open Michael Gallup along the near sideline. He hurdles past Bryan at the 45 of New England, and eventually Jabril Peppers shoves him out at the 40. So the Patriots playing coverage, contain rush. Prescott maneuvers and finds a wide open Gallup down the left sideline.
Too much initial time in the pocket. Really didn't have to bounce here. But, Wise gets in a little internal pressure, forces him outside. That's a big play right there for Dak trying to gallop. That's 28 yards. Too easy.
Meanwhile, Pollard in the backfield, hands on knees. Prescott with an adjustment at the line, squats under center, takes the snap, and he runs into Pollard on the handoff. Pollard strung out wide and tackled by Duggar. The Cowboys stop themselves before Duggar records the takedown at the 5.
Hey, we'll take advantage of it. Just nothing but pure stupidity by the Cowboys. Opening drive of the game, first and goal inside the 10. Quarterback running into the back. You don't know which way he's going. Shovel pass, fade throw. Just handed to that guy 3 times. What are you doing?
And now the former MLS soccer player, Brandon Aubrey, who's made his first 10 field goal tries. The first kicker in the Super Bowl era to make his first 10 attempts in the first 3 weeks of the season, on to attempt a 28-yarder from the right hash. With a snap to Anger, the swing of the right leg, the kick lifted to the uprights, gives Dallas the early lead, a field goal, but yet a win of sorts for the Patriots defense. They turn the Cowboys aside in a search for 7, what is now a 3-0 game. It's a 3rd and 6 Henry motions right. That gives Jones 3 receivers to the right, 1 Parker to the left. Stevenson steps up inside the left guard as Jones takes a shotgun snap. Pocket holding, now Mack rolling left, throwing downfield, soft tosses to a wide open Douglas at the 30. Stutter step on the cut and a spin to the far sideline 20. And DeMario Douglas tumbles out of bounds. First down, New England.
But Mac Jones starting this game extremely accurate here. Scrambles out. I thought he was going to take off. I thought he could have picked it up. But the Cowboys started to close defensively, directs traffic and floats one perfectly to DeMario Douglas, and then he spins out of the cut. What a move by the kid.
Now he'll attempt a try from the right hash of the 19, 29-yard attempt. Waits in the staggered stance, snap is in place, kick is airborne to the uprights, and the kick is good. So Chad Ryland draws the Patriots even with a 4th field goal in his 4th NFL game. Christian Gonzalez came off the field, his right arm tight to his side, seemingly injuring his shoulder. He's gone to the injury tent along the Patriots sideline. Meanwhile, in a 3-3 tie, Dallas with Prescott to lob a throw left side into the end zone for Lamb, makes the grab. He dropped it into the basket, and the Cowboys take the lead.
How do you not go at it? I mean, you're down to Sean Wade and Miles Bryant on the outside, and you got CeeDee Lamb. They're dropping the bucket for Dak. Easy touchdown, pitch and catch. Man, you're going to be chasing now.
Mac Jones, meanwhile, 3 for 4 on the first drive for the Patriots. He'll work under center with Elliott, the single back behind him. 2 tight ends to the right, plus Bourne to the right. 2 receivers wide to the left, with the ball on the near hash, the right hash. Jones changing the play. Farrell Brown moves into the backfield, offset fullback. Hand off to Elliott. Runs to the right side, dragging a defender forward. Van Der Esch had him by the seat of his pants, but Ezekiel Elliott runs it across the 34.
Connor, second counter of the game. Had one earlier to Ramondre down inside the red zone. It's good action here.
Gesicki in the left slot inside of Parker. Henry slots right. On the outside, Smith-Schuster. Elliott starts in motion left and then comes back to Mac Jones. Mac summoning him with his left hand. Now extending the hands at 1st and 10. Takes the snap, dropping back, pressured up the middle, slings it down the middle, and the pass is caught by Gesicki. Crossing left to right at midfield. A grab under duress with Curse on coverage.
Hell, a little sidearm throw here by Mac to avoid the pressure. Pressure comes from that left side. I think it was Parsons that almost got to him, but it's a good catch by Gesicki, dragging left to right.
It's 4th and less than a yard, and they're going to line up for the tush push. Snap to Jones, and he plunges forward. It's close. He didn't get it. He's short.
Oh, he got it.
Well, the official from the far side ran up and spotted him short zone.
No, because I'm looking at the replay here, the blue. I thought the blue. No, he's short. He's short.
Now Jalen Mills is in the slot. Cornerback for the Patriots opposite CeeDee Lamb. Prescott on 3rd and 8, being pressured by Wise up the middle and then driven down and sacked by Uche.
There you go.
Patriots get to the quarterback for the first time today with a sack back at the 33-yard line.
Fantastic job. Interior rush right here. You know, you get tied up. Mills is late setting on Lamb. He gets the jam, though. And I don't know if Dak wanted to go to him, and he came back to that left side. By that time, it collapsed on him. That's what you got to do. That's what I thought you had a chance at to start this game, is to push that edge.
So a 2nd down and 7. Stevenson stays on the single back, 2 tight ends stacked to the right, 2 receivers to the left. Now Juju starts in motion from the right, reversing direction. Jones with a play fake. He's in the pocket, pressure. Max starts to roll to the near side. He's sacked. Ball's picked up by Van Der Esch. A fumble, a scoop and score.
You just said it. Can't have a turnover down here. And what do? You give up the rush on the right side. Kadarian Lowe gets beat. He gets tracked down from behind. He doesn't have eyes in the back of his head, but you gotta know things are breaking down around you. Ball gets put on the ground, scoop and score. Here we go, chasing 14 again. Gross.
And now the Cowboys fake it with a throw off the snap to the right and lumbering in for the score on a 2-point conversion.
Wow. Out-coached right now, boy.
Well, the Cowboys looking to bounce back, and they throw it to Chauncey Golston, a 285-pound defensive end, leaking out wide open to the right with a 2-point conversion, dialed up by Mike McCarthy. And the Cowboys are rolling in the second. Jones in the gun, 3 receivers left, 2 to the right. Mack pressured again, rolls to his right, looks downfield, holds up, throws back across the field, caught by Bourne on a bobble at the 30, and then he's tackled forward to the 35-yard line. A dangerous throw across the grave. Kendrick Bourne makes the play, and eventually is forced down by Deron Bland.
Playing with fire, man. You are playing with fire when you go outside the numbers to the right and throw all the way back across the grain to the outside the numbers on the left, but you find a way to pick up 16 yards and convert.
Patriots having trouble getting lined up. Stevenson has to shift to the right of Jones. 3 receivers right, 1 left. Mack dropping back, rolling right, pulling up, looking back, throws it near side, passes picked off. Goodbye. Deron Bland to the 30, to the 20, to the 10, to the end zone.
What I tell you about throwing back across the grain, you're going to kill yourself at some point.
Second defensive touchdown today here in Dallas.
2 turnovers, converting to 14. I'm surprised if you shake things up here soon to give yourself a spark.
Well, he did it against the Giants from 22 yards out against Daniel Jones, and now Deron Bland picks off Mac Jones and runs it in for the Cowboys.
Make a move here?
I think you have to strongly consider it.
14 off turnovers.
That's 2 turnovers by the Patriots quarterback, resulting immediately in scores for the Cowboys. The kick by Aubrey is good.
Irresponsible.
There was
sloppy.
another pass earlier as well that could have easily been picked off and run in for a score. Bland missed that time, not this latest time. Out of the timeout. 4th and 2. Jones takes the shorter high snap from the gun, throws it to the right, picked off again, and running along the near side. Bland.
Get him out.
Stepped in front of the intended receiver at the 45 of Dallas, and only a tackle by Smith-Schuster prevented another runaway to the end zone.
Telegraph off the back foot, no zip on the ball, no break by the receiver. Time to get him out.
Cowboys have not lost back-to-back games since 2020. They lost last week to Arizona, refocused and sharp from the outset. In stark contrast to the Patriots today. Tight end to the right, 2 receivers to the right, single back. Play fake by Prescott, chased by Devine, scrambles to the near side, and he's brought down. Jelani stayed with it, and he sacks the quarterback at the 15-yard line.
It's a dumb call by them. And some silly calls here for Dallas. As much as they're up, like, you got Pollard. You can sneak it twice with him with his legs.
3:41 left in the 3rd. Bailey Zappi enters the huddle for the Patriots. They trail the Cowboys 31-3. He replaces Mac Jones, who ends the day 12 of 21, 150 yards, 2 interceptions, and a fumble loss. Zappi under center with a change of the play. Right from the outset, 2 receivers left. Short motion by Smith-Schuster. Hand off to Stevenson, hit in the backfield and dropped. Tackled inside the 28. That play had no chance. Neville Gallimore making the hit.
You know what's crazy? Dallas they're not even good on the interior defensively. All their strength is on the outside. You are getting manhandled. I mean, how many times has there been contact behind the line of scrimmage? Coming off a week where you actually moved the line of scrimmage against the Jets.
2nd down and 11 for Dallas from the 25. Prescott again under center, 2 tight ends to his right, a 3rd tight end left. Tolbert in short motion from the right, lines up over the right tackle. Devon spins away from Judon, running left though, surrounded. Bentley takes him down with some help on the edge
Judon is
from
down.
Another defender, Mills, and now Matt Judon is hurt.
I think
Matthew Judon.
Is this not contact?
Face down on the turf. He's grabbing initially as he went down his right elbow. This has been a disastrous day for the Patriots. They've lost Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon, who went back to the locker room with an elbow injury. Their quarterback has been pulled after 3 turnovers. Prescott with a handoff on the end around, and Turpin has a gaping hole to the 50, running to the 40. Slips past Duggar, chased by Bryant at the 20, and Miles catches him at the 15-yard line.
He punches the ball out, and Dallas is more heads up than you are to look at the ball and find it and recover it.
The Cowboys with a 3rd and goal coming up from the 3 ball on the right hash. Tolbert split outside to the left, Turpin in the left slot. Cooks lines up over the right tackle. Give to Lipke, runs up the middle into the end zone. Touchdown for Dallas. On the 2nd career rush for Hunter Lipke.
Remote start. Can you start the buses from here?
The rookie Ryland will attempt a 52-yard field goal from straight on. Cardona over the football to snap it back to Behringer. Ryland leans forward. The snap on the spot, drives the kick, sailing to the uprights, and the kick is no good. That kind of day for the Patriots. They elect to try to kick the field goal, and the kick was pushed high to the right. No good from 52. Still a 38-3 game. Another kneel down by Rush.
Calamity.
1:15 and counting. And on top of all of it, injuries to Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon. The terrific rookie cornerback and the outstanding edge player for the Patriots, who's been a Pro Bowler in his 2 full seasons for New England to this point. And a lot of soul searching, no doubt, in the next 6 days before the Patriots take on New Orleans next Sunday. 42 seconds in counting. Rush to the knee. Team's off the sidelines. A long walk for the Pats from the near side of the field here at AT&T Stadium to complete a long day in Arlington, Texas. Part of a long road ahead with the Patriots falling to the Cowboys 38-3, dropping to 1-3 overall this season as Dallas improves to 3-1.
Bridgestone is the official tire of the New England Patriots and proud partner with Sullivan Tire, New England's headquarters for quality Bridgestone tires. Visit sullivantire.com to find a location near you. Boy, really sticking the knife in deep with the ending of that mashup, huh? The whole...
It's dragged out.
Yeah, the whole soliloquy
I wanna paint
afterwards
the picture.
by Bob Sosi. Just, every moment of that
Players
misery.
walking.
Yeah.
Long walk.
Yeah. Anyway, back here on Patriots Unfiltered, 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket Hotline. Web radio at patriots.com is the way to email us. And got a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, so we should get right to it, I suppose.
No emails telling us we're being too negative this week.
No.
That's surprising.
No.
Not yet.
Sorry.
Brian's in Lowell. What's up, Brian?
What's up?
Hey.
Hey, Brian.
Brian.
You called us.
Yeah, what's up?
Okay, you got it. Now's the time where you say what you want to say.
Oh, man. I mean, that game was just a brutal game.
Yes. Do you have a take?
I think Mac Jones. Mac Jones needs to go.
Okay.
I mean, I hate to say as a Pats fan, but yeah, man, I don't know what's going on with Mac, but he's just not.
No,
I don't think he's not getting any better than last season.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the call. I mean, you got to have a little bit more than that.
Hello? All right, Felger.
Christian's in Boston. What's up, Christian?
Hey, I'll be quick. The whole program's broken. I'm with Patty. He needs to be stripped down to the studs. Bill's got to go. I don't think Mac's the guy. And I called in the offseason and said about Bill, moving on from him. I still thought he could coach. I mean, talk about insult to injury with that field goal and the 2-point conversion the other day. Like that's just lack of focus and just not. I just don't think he's got it anymore. Not even 5-10 years ago like he had it. He just doesn't. And I don't know how much more you need to see. 2020 they get blown out at home against the 49ers. 21 they lose a game, primetime game at Indy. Usually they win those games. They get smoked in the playoffs by Buffalo. Following year, take your pick. They lose on Thanksgiving night at Minnesota. This year, this game. I mean, they're Hail Mary away from being 0-4. They really are.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's really painful to watch, and it's just so disappointing. I didn't think they'd be this bad, and I don't think they're that bad as they were Sunday. I'm with everybody else on that, but they're certainly not good enough, to compete. I think that's pretty clear through 4 games to complete and be a viable playoff team.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
That's all I got, guys.
All right.
Yeah, along those lines, I credit Dakota Randall for asking the question that was in my head. I know I've said it to you guys, but just when Bill got up after that blow-off playoff loss to the Bills and said, is this who we are, or is this just a bad night? And Dakota brought that up and said, is this who you are, or is this just a bad night? And he said, well, we'll see going forward. But the point remains that this is the second time in 2 years that he's gotten up in a press conference and said, my team was not competitive. And that's as much of an indictment as you can get. And, as people want to talk about he's lost it. I don't know what he lost. I just know that it doesn't seem like they're buying into what he's selling anymore. So maybe he knows the game well, and maybe he has the right plan. I just don't know if the team is listening to it and able to execute.
Dietrich Wise is. He came up and said, I believe everything he tells us.
Yeah.
I don't think
that's
how you took that?
No. That's what a captain is assigned to go up there and say.
Okay, but he said it.
Yeah, I did not take Dietrich listening to it. I didn't take his response to that question was as a glowing endorsement
Really?
for Bill Belichick.
Well, how did you take it?
I thought that he was looking for the words.
Well, I think that's how he speaks.
No, I've spoken to Dietrich a lot, and I think that he was trying in his head to make sure that he was saying the right things. Honestly, I'm not saying that Bill has lost the locker room. I'm not going there, but I
tune in from 2 to 6 on the hub.
Yeah,
for that.
But we talk a lot about Bill's philosophy on offense and team building and all that kind of stuff. And I think something that's irked me coming a little bit off this game is they've played two really good offenses in Miami and Dallas, and I don't really think they've been particularly good on defense. And that's supposed to be his side of the ball, and that's supposed to be where we can sit here and still put a feather in his cap that he can still coach defense. And I get that they had injuries in the secondary in this game, but I mean,
looked the same way at the beginning. I mean, they went right through
right.
them,
Right, the opening drive of the game, they just go right down the field.
So the opening part of what you guys just said is what I fixate on. And this is where I'm going to admit that some of my confidence in Bill, the coach, has been shaken a little bit. And, everybody just still no one I'd rather have a game plan. And that might be true, okay? But the consistent pattern that develops in these games is that they do not play well early in the game. When they play against a good team that's harder to shut down, the other team tends to do their best work coming right out of the chute. So that's 3 times now this year that the other team dominated the first half. It's hard to say, there's no one I want having a game plan when the other team gets the ball and goes right down the field the first 2 times they get it.
And the field goal that they did hold them to.
They ran into each other.
Right, Dak and Tony Pollard run into each other. It's not like it's kind of like that opening drive with Tua where he tripped over himself and fell down on 3rd down.
I forgot about that one. Usually those are the hits that I like to play.
And I'm not the defense is not why they're losing, and I
it's
hate
not. The defense has been fine.
Yeah, I hate to attack the defense, but at the same time, the formula coming into the season, and you said that 4 games in you'd have 2 takeaways on defense, that's
not them.
That's not how they need to play. They need to turn the ball over on defense. I'm not asking the defense to score necessarily, but you need to set up the offense and for Paul's pick 3s and and things like that. Those things need to happen more often for this defense than what they have been, and they just aren't.
We had a strip 8 this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh,
we gave up a strip 8.
Strip 8.
I've never seen that before in my life.
It's valid. But that it's not the defense's fault, and I'm not trying to come after that. They've been fine, but they needed them to be better than fine.
Right, and I'm just talking strictly being prepared at the start of the game. That was one of the things that I had my bad list, right, on Sunday. Yeah. This is a pattern that they're not ready to go when the game starts against good competition, and they're not good enough to overcome a 2-score deficit against a good team on a consistent basis. Yeah. They just haven't proven to be able to do that. So
I think the Cowboys took them by surprise on that opening drive, throwing the ball.
Right. So they, God forbid, someone who's not a good game planner came out with a better game plan than God's gift to game plans.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I'll fall on that sword. I said it all last week that I thought McCarthy was horrible in that Cardinals game.
This is not a shot. I didn't mean this as a shot at you. And that was snarky. I don't mean to be snarky, but I do think Bill is excellent at preparing his team, but I don't think we've seen that in a while now.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that the Cowboys, they threw the ball 18 times on their first 4 drives. which they haven't done all year.
And people are going to say, well, Gonzalez. No, they came out throwing it.
Yeah, they came
before
out.
Gonzalez was hurt. They were completing passes right down the field.
And they also, to McCarthy's credit too, because I definitely said last week that I didn't think this would happen. To his credit, they knew the weak links on the Patriots defense too. They went right after Sean Wade.
Oh God,
right after him.
And what else
out
did
of
they do
gate.
just in general is they didn't fixate on CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb had a good game. He was fine.
Yeah.
But they were perfectly content to throw drive starters to Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
Four targets, 4 catches, not a ton of yards, but like setting up 2nd and 3 on a consistent basis. Gallup caught a handful of passes. They used the tight end kid, Ferguson. I think he was 7 for 7, 7 targets, 7 catches.
That's a great game for Turner.
If they'd thrown that one in the end zone to him instead of the other guy who dropped it, they would have had another touchdown.
Yeah, and then
Schoonmaker.
And even then, there was one stretch where the Cowboys all of a sudden started throwing these quick sideline passes. Like, what are you doing? Look downfield.
Oh, I said that.
You don't need to be doing that.
The first 2 drives, they went right down the field. Then the third drive after the failed 4th down,
right?
They tried to throw 2 quick screens. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right?
Like everything you were doing was working.
And it's quite a contrast from the Patriots who are just trying to execute on offense. They don't have the ability yet to like attack a weak point on another team's defense. It's like they're just trying to execute a play on their own without taking that all into account.
Yeah, it just the prevent defense that they played against Miami, and then this week just allowing Sean Wade to get picked apart in the beginning part of this game. Like that's all you got. Like that's all you got. This is what you're supposed to be selling me on, is that this defense is going to be great and Bill's going to be great coaching it, and all this type of stuff, and all you got is to play 3 deep safeties against the Dolphins and not get blown out by 70. Like,
well, I mean, when was the last time you felt like they really were well coached and executed and prepared for a game that they went out and executed and won? It's I can't think of one.
I'm sure that there's others, but like off the top of my head, that Baltimore rain game where they like did have some wrinkles for Lamar Jackson and like those were some of like the better game plans that I remember of Bill from the last like 3 or 4 years, where it was like, okay, that was innovative. Like you played basically an inverted defensive front so that your faster guys were out on the edge and that made sense. Like I don't know, but there's a lot of.
But didn't you feel like that particular night it was so bad with the rain that he had to run? Like they really had a hard time throwing it. So
yeah, but in 19 they got blown off the field by Baltimore.
Yeah.
And then they did play totally differently in 20 against.
But I just think it would have been
Lamar.
harder to play that style if they could have thrown the ball the way they normally do. And I know they run first. I know they're even now they're still a run first team.
See what they do against Buffalo.
Damon's in Maryland. What's up, Damon?
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right.
So I went down to the game on Sunday for my bachelor party as a Patriots fan. It was terrible. But 2 quick questions. So first, pertaining to the secondary, after injuries, where's the balance when it comes to talent versus experience? I feel like Miles Bryant has the experience, but is the endless weak link in the defense whenever he's in the game, versus someone like Mapu, who has all the talent in the world and looked lost out there at times on Sunday. And secondly, after a game like this, is it just better to bury the tape and move on to the Saints?
Yeah.
Well, I think they need to learn what the problems are. If Mac Jones was not seeing things properly, like we sort of suggest, I don't think it's just right to just say, well, just forget about that game. Let's show him, like, no, Mac, right here. Instead of looking at Micah Parsons over here, look at Devontae Parker right here. He's open. He's a step ahead.
You ever see the movie?
You show him.
You ever see the movie Clockwork Orange?
Yeah.
Where they take the toothpicks and they tape his eyelids open. That's what you need to do with Mac. You need to watch.
But
it's ugly, but you need to watch all of it.
But I know they did watch it yesterday, but like at this point, like you do need to turn the page. Like you watch it and learn from it.
But you have to address what happened.
But it's Tuesday now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no
bury
sense
the ball.
You can't cry
Go
over
back
the game.
to 0-1 and bury the ball.
Yeah. But
I thought they did that already this season, but maybe they need to.
Did they
another.
really?
No, I'm only.
They got a forest of buried balls.
But I just
it's like a graveyard.
We're running out of balls.
It's like they're Googling shovels.
Yeah, I just still can't get over how
The
poorly
line.
he read the field. That's because that's just so uncharacteristic of him that it almost wants to make me chalk it up to like a one-off where you're just like not.
I'm willing for the next 5 days to kind of take that route because
I'm
look,
not,
the
like
next
no one's
4
saying
weeks,
that they're gonna score 40 points. Like no one's saying they're good offensively regardless, but
he's not that bad.
No, and just some of the things that he missed are just such just easy things for Mac most of the time, and it just is bizarre.
Al's in Wisconsin. What's up, Al?
Hey, how you guys doing?
All right.
Evan, how's the pledge to be more positive on Tuesdays going forward?
Hey, listen, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain on Sunday, Al, so that's not my fault.
I'm going to start off a little bit positive, and that is with Fred. Fred knows how to rebuild a team. Replacing Eric with Evan is like replacing Mac with Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, no.
Wow.
I don't know about all that. Thank you.
It's not really a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, that's an insult to Mac, isn't it?
Thanks,
Oh,
Paul.
just kidding.
Take that as a compliment.
Well, you can if you want.
About Bill, the coach, though, like I've been on Eldred's side of the street with Bill, the GM, for a while now. But as a coach, I feel like in the past, 4 years, just watching the games, I feel like he's been out-coached more often than on the other side, than he's been the better coach in the game. And, I don't know, I don't have a name ready for, this is the guy I want as a head coach, but I can tell you that if we go into next year with all that cap space, with probably a pretty good draft pick, and still this regime running things, I'm going to go into next season with no hope. We talked about how you have to have hope at the beginning of the season, but we've seen the script for the past 4 years now. They're a team that can beat up on bad teams. Now they might be getting worse to the point where it's a coin flip between bad teams, and they can't beat any good teams. And at this rate, if they're trying to hold on to Bill for the record or something, he needs, I think 29 wins, and he's had 26 since Brady left. So that's probably another 5 years of this for him to break the record.
19,
or if you want to be,
right?
Yeah, 19.
Yeah.
Or if you want to be snarky, he's currently on pace to get those 19 to get the record in 20 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say at this point it could be 3 seasons. This season, next season, and 25.
Yeah.
But that's I think what Al was saying about this cap space and the high with this
Al.
regime. It's that's where I feel like I'm in such a disarray with this, is because Mike brought it up earlier, the free agents that they have and the decisions that they have to make, and it's if you're going to turn this roster over again and basically restart, and maybe even restarting at quarterback,
it's another 3 years.
Is this the guy that you want to do it again with?
Yeah, that's the problem that I think they're looking at. Is I'm not necessarily sure I want him with that cap space,
right?
Based on what he did in 21,
or just it's an opportunity too. This is, if you're going to hit the reset button and you're going to have a new coach or GM coming in, this is an opportunity to say, hey, you can basically build the offensive line from scratch. You can tell us what you want to do at tight end. We got one running back who's on his last year, so we got to make some moves there. We don't really have a defensive end or an edge rusher. The only one we have is 32 with a coming off a major injury. So there's some wiggle room for a new guy to come in, as opposed to, you come in and they're low on cap space. They're in cap hell, and they've got to cut a bunch of guys. I mean, I'm sure they would cut a bunch of guys anyway,
cap
right?
Hell. Love it.
Oh, we're in cap hell. We got to, cut half the team.
This is giving Deion Sanders vibes, coming in and wiping the whole team.
It's Coach Deuce.
But that's for our fearless, leader, Mr. Kraft. That's the question that you have to ask, is that if we come into this, by the end of this season and they're picking in the top 10 and they have to make all this roster decisions with the guys already on the team with free agents and all this, is this really, you're rebuilding again? You're rebuilding again.
Yeah.
And how many more times are you going to let them rebuild,
Right. Well, 4 years ago, I mean, it's, he kind of has had a rebuild now, and it
and
doesn't go great.
And I'm okay with rebuilding again, but I'm not necessarily okay with the same plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I don't want to chalk this failed rebuild, if it ends up being
Mac's
a fail,
fault.
as just being
picked the
bad
wrong
luck.
guy. Yeah.
This wasn't bad luck.
Right. That's the way to put it.
Anthony's in Nashville. Hey, Anthony. Anthony.
Hello?
Yep.
How you guys doing, man?
You know.
We've all been better.
I don't know if you're listening. You know how we're doing.
It's my second time calling. Y'all, I'm pretty sure y'all feel like me, man. But
Yeah.
I agree with you, Fred, man. I agree, man. We got to get somebody that got to answer to the owners, man. I don't think Bill is going to cut it no more as just, handling all the GM position by himself. I know Paul always said he thinks he make all the decisions, and I don't think that that's going to be, a good thing moving forward for us. I believe that Matt could possibly be, as good as like an Andy Dalton or something like that, but I don't believe that he's going to be a top-tier quarterback. I believe he's all right.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I fall.
Thanks, Anthony. Andrew's in Minnesota. What's up, Andrew?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Wow. Are you in a submarine?
That's exactly what it sounds like, Fred. That's
Hey,
so funny.
I was just wondering, actually, I just had a question specifically for Evan. I was wondering on that second Deron Bland interception, why, in your opinion, why there would be no rub in that situation?
No what?
Rub.
Because at that point, it's just, I feel like out of that formation, there definitely should have been a rub or something to help. And then also at that point, I would just like to say, shout out to the Booty Clap Bandit, Evan. You can be on board.
What,
you want booty out there?
The Booty Clap Bandits? What's that, Evan? Tell us about that.
I'm
Is
not.
that an Alex Barth thing?
Yeah, it just amazes me how the answer is like rookie 6th round pick wide receivers. Like it just amazes me.
I'm not,
and I'm not suggesting that you think the answer is
basically their
Sean
Dungeons
Booty
and
territory.
Dragons name.
The Booty Clap Bandits are a nice group on the X machine that really like Keyshawn Booty and want to see him out there. I'm not quite yet in like Booty territory where we're playing guys just to play the rookies and see what you got. In that
I'm there on Douglas. I've seen enough from Douglas
that
I need to see more of him. Yeah. Well, I've seen absolutely nothing from Booty.
It's so funny, but this is the blog. So Douglas makes his great play. Next post, where's Booty? It's like, can't we just enjoy what we just saw instead of like, who's the next guy? You know.
So you have to make sure Hardy does.
By the
not
way,
come
that was an
across-
amazing move by him.
Yeah.
He does
Until
the
he fell
spin,
down.
and as he comes out of the spin, he sees the he sees the guy coming, and then he reverses again.
Yeah, he actually knocked himself down though, which was unfortunate. But it was an unbelievable play.
Yeah.
And we really saw very little of him the rest of the game. And
he didn't even drop it this time.
Do you think they got scared when he did that?
Well, what I'm wondering about is
he made a big play and he got scared.
Can't have that.
Get him out of there.
He's running too far. Evan has taken the mantle from me for most snark, and this is great.
Oh my God, can't do that.
He's outrunning our talent.
So this is another one of the things that I've often been sort of annoyed about. Even the great Bill Belichick is like, do we have to always have guys that do all of those things? Like we need N'Keal Harry because he's a 4-down player. Like he can block and he can do. But maybe okay. So right now, completely anecdotal. It looks like Demario Douglas doesn't always know what he's doing.
Yep.
Okay.
It's like
and I'm going
let's
to be
honest.
I'm going to be right out there, and I'm going to say that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
He ran right into Bourne on that play, and maybe they just look at it and say, I can't have this guy playing. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I'm just like, sometimes mistakes when you can't move the ball wind up making 42 yards. That was a mistake. They made a mistake, and it was the biggest play they made in the game by far.
Yeah. Second biggest play of the season.
Why not just let him make a mistake every once in a while, and maybe it works? Like I get frustrated with that. If you have a great offense, and then you have this young guy that might be able to provide more to that offense, but he keeps making mistakes, by all means, sit him down. You can't move the ball from here to there without falling down, right? It's like Private Santiago, who seemingly can't run from here to there without falling down. They can't move the ball. They're going the wrong direction. It's 20, 17, 13, and now 3. They're going in the wrong direction, and we can't find 55, 60 snaps for Demario Douglas.
Yeah. And I try to like highlight these things in after further review because people ask me about Bourne, people ask me about Douglas, and Bourne maybe not as much this year, but like why aren't these guys playing? And the reason why Pop Douglas doesn't play more is because of the route running issues.
And I'm assuming that that's the case.
It's not just, that one was obviously egregious and everybody could see it because of
18 plays
of the play that transpired. But there's probably 4 or 5 times a game where I'm writing down, well, Douglas ran into somebody, or Douglas doesn't really look like he knows where he's going, or Douglas is running the wrong route most likely here. And that's why the coaching staff looks at it and says, we can't play this guy. But it kind of comes back to like Keon White now with Matthew Judon. I know that from their perspective, Jelani Tavai is probably going to play that spot more fundamentally sound than Keon White. But that's not what's in the best interest of the team. Same with Demario Douglas, because Keon White might actually make a play in the backfield and not just, set a steady edge and keep the quarterback in the pocket and like do the things that they want them to do. This team needs plays. They need impact playmakers. And some of these guys that might make a bunch of mistakes might also make a 42-yard catch. And that's how they have to live right now.
I think the offense is going to be better this year, but do we have a conversation about what if the offense is really not all that much different than what it was last year with Matt Patricia?
What if it's worse?
Like, what if it's worse?
Because so far it's been worse.
Like, so what does that look like? I mean, was it we were too harsh on Matt Patricia last year?
No.
Or is it just the players and this is what it is,
He
no matter
deserves
who
a
you
thank
kind of
you.
have?
He doesn't deserve a thank you, and we weren't too harsh on him last year, but there hasn't been any better.
Just the players?
I think it's how Evan described it. What did you describe it, like the pig scenario that you used?
Oh, yeah.
That's,
Put the
lipstick on the pig.
Yeah, that's what I think the problem is.
Yeah.
I also just like quickly on the offense, like the receivers and the route running. I was already on Troy Brown last year. Like I was already on this. Like I am so far out on Troy Brown, wide receivers coach. Like they make more poor route running miscues than any team that I watch on film every single week. Like for example, just run the route to the sticks. Like, can we run the route to the sticks? It's 3rd and 15, and Juju runs a 14-yard route. And Mac makes a good throw.
And he fell down as he was catching it, too. Don't leave that part out.
Right.
This was sort of where my phrase, accidental offense, really came to the forefront in this game. It was Douglas running into Bourne and creating a 42-yard play. It was Juju falling down for that catch. It was throwing across the field to Bourne, who scrapes it off the ground and somehow bobbles it 3 times with 4 guys all over him, and he doesn't lose it, and they get a first down.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, aside of
Nothing
maybe a couple
easy.
of passes to Hunter Henry, nothing looked right.
They have poor route running receivers. Their receivers are bad route runners. And at some point, yes, that's like a personnel evaluation of the receivers and who the guys they are that bringing in. But at some point, you have to look at the coaching. Like, what I know for a fact, it was zappy in the game. The game was out of hand. Devontae Parker had a 12-yard route. He ran it at 10 yards and got tackled short of the sticks and put them in 3rd down. It's a 12-yard route, and he runs it at 10. It's 3rd and 15, and you're running it at 14. And this happens all the time. The caller asked about, like, the rub out of the bunch. There was supposed to be a rub. They just didn't execute the rub, right? So, like, this is 2-3 years now of the same sort of just sloppy receiver play.
I'd kind of put Juju in this category too of like, are you doing what's best for the team or are you doing what's best for the guy you signed this offseason? Because it's just 4 games in a row where he's on a different planet with what they're doing. He doesn't look explosive. I mean, if there's somebody, I don't know how long they can keep trying to trot him out there. And every week he's willing to talk, and it's like 5 targets, 1 catch. What happened? Like, I think he's one of those guys too.
Let's get to some of the emails at webradio@patriots.com. Ian says, so the team's 1-3, perhaps that's more than they deserve. The quarterback has a wet noodle for an arm, but what he lacks in physical gifts, he makes up for with questionable accuracy and subpar decision-making. The coach seems to have lost it, but plenty of people improve cognitively in their 70s. Luckily, he hasn't let his ego get in the way of him adapting his football philosophy and doing what's best for the team these past 5 years. I'm starting to think that the head coach and the GM really don't get along with each other. Why else would the GM give the coach such a ragtag bag of Jags to mold into a team? And sure, the defense are down to the top 4 corners and have probably lost their leader for the season. But do you know what I like to tell myself in troubled times such as these? No one is coming. It's up to us.
Oh my God.
It's kind of weird how like last week it made no sense, and
there.
now after they have 2 major injuries, it's kind of like, oh, all right, now I get it. Like,
Well, 'cause
what did you know?
But you know what? Like the injury thing to me is like those 2 on Sunday, like sort of snapped me in the face too. Like, you know how you just sometimes you have those years where like, you know, everybody's just getting hurt, and like every time you think you're getting a guy back, someone else goes out. This just seems like one of those years.
Which sucks because it's week 4 and it's the realization of we got 13 more weeks.
And I'm not trying to like be sunshine.com. Like they'll make fun of me tomorrow for being like, I'm not trying to tell you that's why they 1-3. That's not why they 1-3. Like I think we all know like the offense hasn't been good enough. But I do feel like every step they're going to try to take forward, it seems like you know, there's going to be
Trent Brown's going to get hurt.
There's going to be an injury coming back. You know.
Devontae Parker's now out.
How'd Trent Brown grade out in that game? Was he 98 again or whatever he was the first game?
Okay. He was fine, but 2 weeks in a row on he's gotten the much easier matchups.
By the
they
way,
kept picking on Vidarian Lowe.
This was kind of fun. I went into the real super slow-mo with his that false start he kind of had. They didn't call him for it, but it looked like it. It wasn't a false start.
Yeah, no,
it was right on the ball. I mean, I was sitting there like, bop, bop, bop.
I thought there was one that he was offside, but I didn't think there were a lot of them this week. Usually there's like 5 or 6
No,
of
I
them.
know. It was just that one. Happened to watch it. I'm like, wow, he is moving at the exact moment.
I mean, even the one he got called for last week, I had to go frame by frame.
Yeah,
because it was that close. It's
is that a sound thing? Is that like, or is that like a cadence thing where he kind of is?
I don't know. They'll never tell us because that would be given away.
You gotta give
the
Trent
snap
the secret
count,
sauce
but
to get him off quick.
Man, I mean, he's really freaking good at that. But I
just this big leg comes kicking out. It's hard to miss.
Yeah.
Adam in Dublin, if we don't believe in top 10 quarterbacks because you can get a guy to run the system, why do you then refuse to adequately invest in the system? O-line and pass-catching resources and a total letdown of drafting and free agency of the past 3 or 4 years. So
yeah, I think that he thinks that they have the pieces. I think that's why I'm worried about
what's he seeing.
Do you still
continuing?
Do you still think he does?
I do.
Whew.
I think he thinks it's on the players to not for a lack of execution.
But I definitely think he thinks it's on. He harps on turnovers like it's like they're the most important thing in the world, and the turnover differential is a lot very indicative of wins and losses. There's no doubt about that.
Obviously,
but if the game that he loved was last week against the Jets, or I guess 2 weeks ago now. You only scored 13 points on offense. He came out after the game and said, we're not going to win very many games, only scoring 15 points. But the second, no turnovers. That was like the goal.
That's the thing. If you're playing on the edge the way they do all the time each week, turnovers are a bigger deal. The Rams are in the bottom of the league in turnovers, but they make plays to overcome it. We can't overcome
turnovers are obviously huge.
No, they are. But sometimes you can overcome it by making your own plays.
Yeah, I mean, look at Mahomes. Like
sometimes
multiple interceptions still wins the game.
Yeah.
Like same thing with Josh Allen. He always has multiple interceptions, but he still has the ability to make a play to win the game.
But Bill knows. He'd never admit it, but with this talent, we can't overcome them ever. So we have to always be better.
But I would never make fun of a coach for stressing
not.
protecting the ball. I
Of
think
course not.
that's a wise way to put it. One of the easiest ways to lose games is by turning the ball over. I know this is silly. I don't think they lost 38-3. They would have lost 24-3 if they didn't turn the ball over. They got thoroughly outplayed in that game.
It didn't make it.
And I think to sit there and just harp on turnovers all the time and try to convince yourself we're not that bad. We just keep turning the ball over. You're losing
and
the forest through the trees. Like they need to be able to move the ball and score points. They don't just have to punt it. Which, by the way, they're also last in the league in that.
Yeah.
Right.
And
net punting.
And that's also just ignorant of what we've been watching for 3 years. I mean, this is the same thing. Like, I mean, that's why so many people, including us, are kind of apoplectic. It's like, how many times do we have to keep having the same conversation over? And you start the season and you have some hope and you think it might be a little bit different. And we got an offensive coordinator and maybe he'll pull it all together. And yet,
and at some point you have to look and say, why are we turning it over? Is it because our quarterback feels he needs to make plays?
Well, in this game, the quarterback was reckless with the ball. That's why you turn it over.
But like, why are we constantly losing the turnover battle? And You know.
And why are we watching our point production go down?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, I do believe in the old saying of, like, you got to stop beating yourself before you can start winning.
Yeah.
And they are beating themselves with the turnovers. Even if
Right,
you know,
we can't even
I'm
find
on
out.
a record of saying I don't think that they're self-inflicted wounds, but regardless, they're killing themselves with the turnovers. But you had a turnover-free game against the Jets, and you only scored 13 points.
That's my point.
So, like, where does it get you?
If they lost Sunday 38-27, I would say the turnovers were the difference in the game.
Right.
But
3 points. I mean, it was over a 10-3.
like they have. So let's just say, for argument's sake, instead of the strip sack on that drive, they just go 3 and out and punt. Do you not think it would have been 17-3?
Right.
The way the game was going,
Yep.
they're punting out of their end zone. They're going to take over at midfield. The Patriots had just stopped in the previous possession for the one stop they got in the first half. I got to think Dallas was going to go down the field and score. I mean, that's just the way. I mean,
That's what they did.
There's no guarantees to it, but I just think putting everything on the turnovers as being the reason is very short-sighted.
Ryan says, I wish this email was more positive, but I'm just ready to scrap the whole experiment, Mac and all. From the drafting of Cole Strange to the signing of Juju over Myers, I think it's time to sell everything and restart. The team has a clear talent issue from all over the roster, and I think they need to accumulate draft capital and spend every cent of that $75 million in cap to get this roster back on track.
Yeah, that's just what's frustrating. Is after 2021, you felt like they had a baseline to build off of, and you know it's all right. They weren't great. They got blown out, but you felt like we turned the corner. We're not going to be one of those terrible teams, and there have just been so many bad decisions and bad players signed that haven't produced, and bad draft picks. You know, that was the point where you got to kind of, not perfect, but you have to have more hits than strikeouts. And right now, looking at what they have strikeouts, but it's not only that, they're doubling down on guys like Godchaw and Parker, and it's like they're saying to us, these are the guys we want. We got them, and we want them. Peppers. I love him.
That's rude.
He's not in that. He's not in that. That was just for you.
I know.
I would also just like caution against like spending the money in free agency again.
I know,
because the way to acquire real talent is to trade for it. Now you have to, if you're going to acquire T. Higgins, they're going to franchise tag him probably to keep him under team control, and then they're going to trade him on the tag. So you're going to have to trade for him. You're going to have to trade for Jerry Jeudy. You're going to have to trade for anything that's going to move the needle. The guys that reach free agency, I think we learned the last time around, they're, maybe you get a Judon and you get one really, impact player out of it. But for the most part, it's going to just be guys that are going to fill in the roster and give you some experience. That's all well and good, but to go out and spend top of the market money again, I don't think is the way to go.
Judon's the trade piece next year.
See, I don't want to do it either. The way they did it the last time. The way they did it the last time is kind of been proven is a quick fix. It's going to make you better immediately, and then you're going to regress. And everybody said, well, that won't happen with the Patriots. That won't happen with Bill. And it happened. It's exactly what happened. It gave you an influx of talent in the immediate, and it allowed you to win some games, and then you immediately regress back to what you are. I like free agency to fill a very specific need. I don't want to have 7-8 guys signed to Fred's point at top of the market money. Like, people have this impression that because they got all these guys, they weren't the highest paid guys. I mean, we remember some of the comments. Kendrick Bourne, why'd you sign here? They offered me the most money.
Yeah.
The two tight ends were the highest paid tight ends in football when they signed. They didn't get these guys on the cheap. And I think if you identify one guy, to your point, like in the trade market, if you identify Devontae Adams and you say, I'm going to give him $100 million, I'm fine with that. Just like I was fine with Stephon Gilmore. One guy, but if you want to just try to get 5 or 6 guys and you expect them to all hit, that's very unrealistic.
Andrew and Bradford, my biggest issue with the team is that they are built just good enough to beat bad teams and backups. This leads to 7 to 9 win seasons, putting you in NFL purgatory.
I don't think they're there.
Any results this season against non-playoff teams won't change my feeling on the team in a positive light. If the goal is to have Bill get the wins record as a Patriot, that's fine. I can understand Mr. Kraft not wanting to see another Patriots legend obtain an all-time NFL record with another organization. I'll cheer hard for every win that gets them closer to it, but I am more excited for the team to actually commit to rebuilding to a new future. I want the team to look outside the organization for the next head coach
Me too.
and entire staff. Bill's organizational philosophy has only worked with Tom Brady. His record without Tom and the history of his coaching tree failures show me enough. I do not want to hire a McDaniels, Patricia, Judge, Flores, Mayo, Bill O'Brien, Steve Belichick, or any of that ilk to take over. It is clear from players around the league that style of coaching is not enjoyable to play under. It only gets buy-in if you're winning and has only proven successful with Tom. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I would just like to see the organization change to be offense-focused.
I think everybody's on
Yep.
board with that. Do you guys think there's a chance that the Crafts would allow Bill Belichick to stay here the next 3 seasons, winning 5, 6, 7 games
No.
next 3 years?
I don't think
Based
so.
off what we've heard at the owners' meetings, no.
I do.
It's a hard sell.
I think they'd have to really completely collapse, and I think it would have to be more off the field.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about that. I am.
I don't think so. They're paying him as the best head coach in the league, and they expect better results. It's a results-based business.
I agree. I
you know?
agree with that mentality.
I mean, what do the fans get out of Bill Belichick breaking the record? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is
I don't-
anybody clamoring for that? Like,
I don't get it.
You know, I don't know. I
don't think you get any buzz out of it at all.
For 3 years, it's bugged me when people call that, like, Bill just wants to win the record. I'm like, okay, but like, you got to win games. Like, it's not like you can just screw around and win the next whatever it is, 18 games that he is away. Like, you have to get good and win a lot of games to break the record. I don't know.
All right, let's quickly get through some of these
All right.
calls.
Lightning round.
We have, I mean,
Bing, bing, bing.
first of all, I want to thank everyone. Whether
lot of
you're,
interaction
Whether you're
today.
upset or optimistic, it doesn't matter. You're engaging with us. You're listening. I appreciate that. There's tons of emails that we didn't get to. I apologize for that. We could do a 5-hour
A lot of interaction
show,
today, and that's what we need.
and we wouldn't get through everything, even if we had 5 hours.
No one's bailing, Fred. I like it.
Let's get to some of these
Except for
calls.
you.
We'll get this done. Nadu is in Chicago. What's up?
Hey, this is my first time calling you.
Thank you.
Fan of your talk show. So I'll get right in. I think one of the reasons the offense is struggling this year is because we lost Jacoby Myers. He's our only man beater, and in our 3rd and 4 and 5 situations, Mac doesn't really have anyone to go to.
Yep.
I think they do miss him.
Yep. And we
in
were
addition,
stupid.
I mean, this is a
Very.
long shot, but when do you think Bill is going to be getting Malik Cunningham in? He's our only QB that has any shot of like a ceiling that's higher than Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones or Bogey or whatever. I mean, I know he's like undrafted rookie, but he has such a much more talent than.
All right.
Like,
I don't
All right,
think. I don't
Malik
think he
Cunningham.
does.
Yeah.
I don't think he has a higher ceiling than any of those guys. I really don't.
I don't
I
either.
think he can run.
I think this
don't
year
think
he'd
he
be
can
more
throw.
fun to watch.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, I don't know about that though.
But I don't think he has a high ceiling at
He's
all.
not going to see
No.
anything, and he's going to be trying to run for his life, and then he's
Yeah.
going to get killed.
As much as they definitely missed Jacoby, and we were dead wrong, or I was dead wrong
I was
about,
dead wrong,
about
too.
the Jacoby move, but like they weren't really like a great team against man coverage, even with
Yeah.
Jacoby.
No, but he was the only one that gave him a
Right.
pulse.
Right.
Now they're probably a little bit
There
worse.
isn't a game
but
this season so far they couldn't have used him.
If I put the stats up though of like them against man last year and them against man this year, like they're pretty much the same batch.
Josh is in Arizona. What's up, Josh?
Hey, yeah. Thanks for taking my call. What do you guys think about taking a playbook out of the Jets and get a veteran like Kirk Cousins, who's a free agent, come in just for a couple of years?
No.
And on top of that, we got Cam Newton for the cheap. Why not get Carson Wentz for the cheap as a backup?
Well, listen, let's just say they do turn it around, and it's not because of Mac, and they end up 8-9, right? They're not in the quarterback running. I could see bringing in a veteran quarterback, just a bridge quarterback.
I'm not
a bridge
complete. Yeah,
quarterback.
I'm not completely against signing Kirk Cousins.
thanks,
I don't
Josh.
think it'll happen, but I am 1,000% against signing Carson Wentz as a backup. I think if anybody has watched Carson Wentz play the last couple of years, no one would want him.
I mean, like
which
if
is why
you-
he's unemployed.
If you're talking about you're going to have a new quarterback that's a rookie and you want to sign like
Right. That's why I'm not opposed.
a
Sure.
veteran guy to in case you need to bridge the gap a little bit, then fine. But for the most part, most of these rookies play right away that are good and should be playing right away. Like I know that
Yeah, but what if you're not in the running for one of them?
you have to win a lot more games than we all think they're going to win.
No, but I would just argue that I think you've seen a couple of bridge guys that they're not going to get their teams to the promised land. Like Geno Smith in Seattle, even Fred's guy Baker Mayfield in Tampa. They're 3-1.
Yeah.
Like, so you can sort of remain relevant and find a way to, I think Kirk Cousins could be 3-1, maybe not with the 4 games that they played this year. But I think Kirk Cousins can be okay while you wait for, the answer. Like, if you're not in position to get a quarterback,
Right.
I would rather watch Kirk Cousins play next year than Mac Jones if it continues like this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
But
Willems and
I don't
Phillip.
think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Is my point.
What's up, William? Another person in a submarine. What's going on?
I wonder if it's our phones.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well,
all right.
Can't hear Willem.
All right. Well, that's going
He'll call and yell at us tomorrow.
That's going to do it for this edition of Patriots Unfiltered. Again, thank you everybody for participating. We'll be back tomorrow at noon. We'll pick it up where we left off. We'll see you then.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.